The CBS Radio Mystery Theater presents... Come in. Welcome. I'm E.G. Marshall. This is the song they sing to the Bisara. Little blind fish, thou art marvelous wise. Little blind fish, though thou hast no eyes. Open thy ears while I whisper my wish. Bring me a lover, thou little blind fish. And what is the Bisara? A tiny square box of silver, studded outside with 8 small rubies. Inside is a little eyeless fish, carved of wood, and wrapped in a shred of faded gold cloth. Yes, this is the Bisara. And it were better for a man to take a king cobra in his hand than to touch the Bisara.
Congratulate me, old man.
On what?
I'm getting married.
Is it possible a woman could be so down on her luck that she'd settle for you?
Yeah, she's beautiful, intelligent, handsome. She's Colonel Hollis' daughter, Millicent.
What kind of evil joke is this? How dare you? Millicent Hollis is my fiancée.
She was your fiancée, John. She was your fiancée.
Our mystery drama, The Bisara of Puri, was based on a story by Rudyard Kipling and written especially for the Mystery Theater by Sam Dan and stars Paul Hecht. It is sponsored in part by ARM, Allergy Relief Medicine, and Buick Motor Division. I'll be back shortly with Act One. In our day and age, we are far too sophisticated to believe in magic. So let us talk about magic as magic used to be. The kind of magic you used to find in India before India became a modern nation and was still part of what was known as the British Raj. The time is the year 1891. The place, Simla, that enchanted city in the hills of which it was said, he who cannot fall in love in Simla will never know love at all. Well, John Churton fell in love in Simla with tall, gray-eyed Millicent Hollis, daughter of Colonel Hollis of the Blue Hussars. And this is the 3rd day in succession that they are taking tea at Leighton's on the pavilion.
Beautiful music, Miss Hollis.
Is it really?
It's so melodic.
That's not what you said yesterday, Major Chesterton.
What did I say yesterday?
You said it was rather Germanic for your taste. So,
Now, why would I say that? I am rather fond of Mr. Strauss's music. Oh, I know why. Yes. You see, the Strauss waltzes belong in a ballroom with a brilliant light of 100 candles reflected like diamonds from the great hanging chandeliers, and the scarlet and gold, the black and silver of the officers' uniforms, and the lovely whites and pinks of the ladies' gowns.
You make it sound so exciting.
Will you save the waltzes for me this evening, Miss Hollis?
Oh, I'm afraid I shall have no choice. You talk about it so prettily. Although, for a man who seems to enjoy dancing so much, I don't believe you've been to a ball in over a month.
Yes, my ankle was a bit stiff and sore.
Oh, from that fall?
Yes, that fall. I suppose it shall be known as that fall from now till the end of time.
Well, it did make talk when you, Major John Churton, who is said to be the finest rider in the Lancers, fell off his horse on dress parade.
Well, that account is not entirely true, Miss Hollis.
Are you saying you didn't fall off your horse?
I didn't fall off my horse. I needed a horse in a hurry, and that old scoundrel Mahbub Ali sold me one that hadn't been properly broken.
Why did you need a horse in a hurry?
Because my bay stallion, Tipple, had died the night before.
Tipple? That splendid animal. Well, how could he have taken sick so suddenly?
He didn't take sick, Miss Hollis. He was killed.
Awful. How?
Well, I came home from the club to discover there was a robbery in progress. I was unarmed, and I tried to run the scoundrels down, but one of them turned and fired a revolver, and poor Tipple fell dead.
A robbery? Well, we haven't had a robbery hereabouts. I can't even remember. Well, were they caught?
No, they got away.
What a shame. Was anything stolen?
No, just some cufflinks, a gift from my mother, a watch, a gift from my father. They were very dear to me.
Oh, I am sorry.
And, of course, money, a considerable sum. It wasn't even mine. I was keeping it for Captain Pack.
Captain Pack?
Yes, do you know him?
Slightly. Why were you keeping money for him?
Well, it was part of a regimental fund. He had withdrawn it that afternoon to be distributed the following day. That evening, he'd been sent off on duty. He didn't want to leave it about his quarters, so he asked me to keep an eye on it for him.
And that's the money that was stolen?
Yes. I went to over half a dozen of my closest friends, and I borrowed every shilling they could raise. I turned the sum over to Pack. He's not the wiser, but I'll be in debt for at least 2 years.
What a perfectly miserable stroke of luck.
I really don't know why I'm telling you all this.
Perhaps it's because you've just caught sight of Captain Pack.
What? Where?
He's coming towards us.
Oh, yes. Yes, I see him.
Good afternoon, most ravishing Miss Horace. And Major Turton.
Good afternoon.
Hello, Pack.
I hope I'm not interrupting, but I stopped by merely to remind you, Miss Horace, that you promised to say the first and last waltz for me this evening.
Did I promise?
Well, of course. It was at the party Mrs. Hawksby gave for the governor last week. Till this evening, then.
Miss Hollis, is there something wrong?
What?
You seem to have turned pale.
No, I'm all right.
You're shivering. Shall I order some tea? A brandy,
No,
perhaps?
thank you, Major.
But something is wrong, I can tell. Please, Miss Hollis, tell me.
I simply cannot tolerate that man.
Captain Pack?
Oh, I shouldn't have said that. He's probably a good friend of yours.
Oh, no, Miss Hollis. He's the last person in the world I would want for a friend.
The man makes me ill. Actually, ill.
What do you mean?
I don't know. I just get a feeling that it's so difficult to find the words. He makes me feel unclean.
I know. He makes me feel the same way.
Well, you don't have to dance with him.
Well, you don't have to dance with him either. Can't you simply refuse?
Oh, it's awkward to refuse. We are, after all, a small community. We have to maintain at least the outward show of friendship.
Well, that may be. But I know a great many ladies who absolutely refuse to dance with certain gentlemen.
The real truth? I'm afraid to refuse him.
Afraid? But why? If he ever tried anything the slightest bit improper or out of line, I'd thrash him within an inch of his life.
I know you would.
And you're still afraid?
Oh, I just can't explain.
Well, I see only one solution to the problem, Miss Hollis. You will have to marry me. Miss Hollis?
Major Chesterton? I thought you'd never ask.
Millicent, my darling.
Not here, not now. You must call me Miss Hollis for just a little while longer.
I must speak to your father. There are plans to be made.
Yes, but first there are plans to be unmade.
I don't understand.
Mother, she thinks she has a plan for me to marry General Benton.
Benton? He's 30 years older than you.
I know, my darling.
But it's
No,
absurd.
it's just an idea at present. It's dancing around Mamma's head, and it must be given its opportunity.
Opportunity? To do what?
Oh, let's say to run its course. Oh, don't look so worried. Everything will be all right.
Well, I'm not sure everything will be all right.
Oh, John, please understand. I alone will decide whom I shall marry. I allow my mother to play these little games because, frankly, she's quite bored and it gives her something to do. Sooner or later, she always finds something wrong with her particular candidate for my hand, and it's over, and that's all there is to it.
I don't know. I have a strange feeling that something will occur to upset our marriage.
John.
I told you about the robbery of my quarters, the killing of my best horse, the loss of a considerable sum of money.
Yes, that's just bad luck.
But you see, that's not all of it.
It isn't?
I'm in the midst of, or I'm being pursued or haunted by, call it what you will, a streak of bad luck.
But I can only call it superstition.
Yes, I was afraid you'd say that. I've spent a year working on a design for a lightweight saddle. Oh, it's just as strong, stronger even than the ones we use now, and it's 17 pounds lighter.
17 pounds?
Yes, do you know what that means to a trooper?
Oh, darling, I'm the daughter of the colonel of a cavalry regiment. A lighter saddle. Why, it's like the search for the philosopher's stone.
Yes, and I designed one.
Oh, John.
And I submitted it to the Office of Procurement.
And they bought it.
They turned it down.
How could they turn it down?
I don't know.
Oh, what did they say?
Well, a rather brief note. Dear Major Chesterton, we do not find your proposed saddle to be practical at this time.
Why not at this time? Would another time be more practical?
Darling, that is the answer I received, and the matter is now closed. Don't you see, this is all part of the streak of bad luck that seems to be pursuing me.
There's a rational explanation.
I wish I could believe that.
All you have to believe is that you love me, and I love you. That's all we need.
You do love me, Millicent?
Yes. And I want to be your wife.
You're not going to change your mind.
Nothing could ever make me marry anyone else. Enjoying the ball, darling?
I'm with you, Millicent. That alone is enough.
Oh, wait.
What is
The
it?
band. They're going to start to play.
Oh, wonderful. I am in the mood for a dance.
Oh, darling. These are the waltzes.
My favorite.
No, but I promised the first to Captain Pack.
Oh, no.
Starting.
Oh, come quickly. We'll escape out onto the
No,
veranda.
it's no use. He'll turn the place inside out and make no end of a row till he finds me.
Oh, I see him heading this way now, the scoundrel.
I don't think he has enough character to be a scoundrel. He's just an offensive man.
Pack. He's well named. Pack Rat.
Oh, darling, please, he'll hear you.
Ah, there you are, Miss Hollis.
Good evening, Captain.
I've come to claim my waltz. Will you excuse us, Major Chesterton? Miss Hollis?
Oh, of course. Major.
Now, you are a divine dancer, Miss Hollis.
Thank you.
Do you know why?
Oh. Well,
Because you are a divine person. You are so different from the rest of them here at the station.
the rest of them, Captain Pack?
A grubby lot, taken by and large.
Oh, Captain.
Overdressed, overpainted.
Captain, I must insist.
Not you. Oh, no. You're something special. You're like an angel that's come down from heaven.
Really, Captain?
I've seen women all over the world. Had my share of them, too, fathers and girls.
Captain, I find this conversation...
But you're the only one that's real.
Well, all the other ladies in this room are real.
Miss Hollis, for a long time I waited so I could say something to you. Now I've got money put by. There are opportunities for a man to make his bundle in India if he keeps alert for the main chance.
Oh, I'm sure there are.
And I haven't spent my off-duty time hunting and playing polo, gambling and flirting.
I don't suppose
I've
you
already
have.
made my packet. Captain Pack made a packet. Well, what I'm getting at is this. I'm ready to settle down.
That's fine.
Settle down with the woman of my choice.
Well, I hope you find her.
Oh, I have. It's you.
Me?
Miss Hollis, make me the happiest man in the world. Say you become my bride.
Why, that's impossible, Captain Pack.
Impossible? Why?
Oh, we can sum it up by saying I'm not in love with you. I'm not even attracted to
Miss
you.
Hollis, I must ask you to reconsider.
As I said, Captain, it's impossible.
I don't recognize the existence of that
Oh,
word.
please, Captain. The matter is closed.
I disagree.
I don't even know what we have to discuss.
We have everything to discuss. All the plans for our future life together.
Captain, I don't believe you heard me. I have no intention of marrying you.
Miss Hollis, I'm a man who refuses to take no for an answer. Sooner or later, one way or another, I always get what I want. And I want you, Miss Hollis.
Obviously, Miss Millicent Hollis considers Captain Pack a disaster. But her fiancé, Major Churton, has a premonition of disaster. Is Captain Pack going to be that disaster? On a statistical note, our special research tells us that a girl can expect to get an average of 5 serious proposals of marriage in her lifetime. Well, what do you think of our heroine? She's actually had 2 in one day. The rich get richer. The drama also gets richer in Act 2 in just a short while. Some people refuse to take no for an answer. This could be a sign of great dedication. It could also be an indication of colossal stupidity. You've heard what Miss Millicent Hollis said about Captain Pack. He is hardly her favorite person in this world, but yet, would you be willing to wager a large sum, or even a small one, that she isn't going to marry him?
Millicent, what are you doing out here alone?
I had to step out for a breath of air, John.
But why didn't you tell me? I would have come out with you.
I couldn't walk across that floor to where you were standing. I had to have fresh air that very moment, or I would have suffocated.
My darling, you're trembling like a leaf.
No, I'll be all right in a minute.
Darling, you must tell me what's the matter.
That terrible little man. That horrible little man.
Pack, what did he do?
He proposed to me.
Well, of all the infernal...
Oh, he has a right to, but it's just...
It's just what? Oh, he needs a lesson.
He didn't know that I'm not free.
Well, very well. He proposed, then what?
I said no.
And then?
He kept insisting.
Why, the bounder. I ought to thrash
darling,
him.
there's nothing to be done. Let's just forget it, shall we?
I've never seen you so upset. Would you care for some punch? Or perhaps something stronger?
Would you mind terribly if I went home?
Now?
You see, the truth is, I owe Captain Pack another dance, and I'm just not up to it.
Well, you just scratch his name off your program.
Oh, I can't do that. He'd create a very unpleasant scene. I just tell Mama I have a headache. And I do.
Oh, my darling.
Now, you stay and you have a good time.
Well, how can I have a good time without you?
Now, you should spend more time socializing with the staff officers. You know, being on good terms might help you sell that new saddle.
Oh, darling.
Mama will be quite happy to go home. I know she must be frightfully bored by this time.
Will I see you tomorrow?
Well, of course.
Are you sure?
Well, silly. Of course I'm sure.
Churton! Why, bless my soul, it's Johnny Churton. Well, look at you, a proper major of the Lancers.
Fulton, this can't be terrible Tom Fulton of the Maverick. Why are you out of uniform, Captain?
I resigned my commission, Johnny.
What? You've become a civilian?
Oh, you make it sound like an obscene word.
Well, in your case, it most definitely is. So what are you doing to earn your bread, or have you married a wealthy widow?
I'm with the Ethnological Service.
You're with the what?
Well, let me explain. You see, Johnny, one day I realized I'd spent my entire life in this country, and I knew nothing about it. India, this beautiful, mysterious India.
Are you quite all right, Tom?
Oh, yes, of course. And so I applied for a berth in the Ethnological Service. We study and we record all the native customs.
And you don't miss the army?
Oh, I miss the friendships, the closeness when we're in the field.
So what are you doing here in Simla?
Well, the local historical society is having a meeting, and I've been invited to read a paper.
Ah, you've become a proper scholar, haven't you? Where are you staying?
The colonel found me a bunk.
Oh, no. You're staying with me. I'll send a boy around to pick up your kit. We're going to sit up all night and destroy at least 2 bottles. How does that sound?
Oh, that sounds first rate. But I'd better leave my kit where it is.
But why?
Because the colonel asked me to.
But whom are you staying with?
A fellow by the name of Pack.
Oh, no. No, I shan't permit that. Oh, he's the worst.
Johnny. The colonel asked it as a favor.
A favor?
This Pack, he doesn't get on, eh?
Oh, that's the understatement of the century.
Has no friends, and the colonel just thought that by asking him to provide hospitality for a visitor, this Captain Pack would feel that he's part of things, you see. Tell me, what does everyone have against him?
Well, how can I put it? He's a nasty little man who must have crawled into the army by mistake.
I see you're determined to dislike him, eh?
Exactly. But why discuss him? Let's head over to my place. We have a full night's drinking and talking ahead of us.
Johnny, will you also invite my host?
Your host?
Yes, Captain Pack.
Oh, no.
Well, he's putting me up for the night. Wouldn't be proper for me
Oh,
to...
Tom, he's impossible. He's absolutely, utterly impossible.
You know, I've made a study of people like Captain Roderick Pack.
Well, what is there to study? It's all out there in plain view.
Oh, no, not at all. It's mostly hidden, you see. People like Pack are the outsiders. Pack was never made to feel welcome here. To begin with, he's very short. He's rather unattractive physically.
Yes, he most certainly is.
But that is not his fault, you see. His father was a greengrocer, which puts him at a social disadvantage. You know, Pack's obnoxious behavior is a defense.
Of what?
It's a protective wall he's built up around himself. If he were made to feel welcome, accepted, I'm sure you'd find him a changed man.
I'm afraid you don't know Captain Pack very well.
Well, I'm afraid you don't either. Invite him back to your rooms with us. See if I'm right.
And I said to him, you ain't had the last of Captain Roderick Peck, my friends. For that matter, he had the first. For that matter.
He's not much of a drinker, is he?
Truth is, Pack's not much of anything. So let him sleep. So much for your noble experiment. At least now we can talk.
It's very impressive digs you have here, Johnny. But then you always like to live well. Oh, I say. That's a splendid clock on the mantel.
Yes, I believe it's the only Gladchester chimes in all of India. Had it sent.
A Gladchester. Oh, I must have a look at that.
Help yourself. Meanwhile, I shall tell you the greatest news of all.
Johnny.
The most wonderful girl in the world says yes.
Johnny, listen to me.
Well, aren't you going to congratulate me?
Where did you get this?
Get what?
This box. This little wooden box.
Oh, that.
This box. It's made of silver. Yes, this is silver, all right. It's studded with rubies. 8 Dallas rubies.
What is it, Tom? You're white as milk.
John, there is something inside this box, isn't there?
Well, yes, it's...
No, let me tell you. It's a tiny fish made of wood, of deodar wood, and it's perfect in every detail except that it has no eyes.
How did you know that?
It is wrapped in a faded piece of gold cloth.
How do you know about that box?
John, tell me, how did you get it?
How did I get it? Well, how do you think I got it? I bought it in the bazaar.
You bought it?
Well, how else would I get it? You'd expect I'd steal it?
What regard you had?
Tom, are you all right?
When did you buy it?
Well, I don't remember.
Try.
Oh, about a month ago.
Well, tell me, how has your luck been since?
My luck?
Tell me.
Well, if you must know, it's been bad.
How bad?
What is this, Tom?
How bad?
Very bad.
I was afraid of that. Then it is true.
What's true?
John, there is a legend of the Viscera of Puri.
I never heard of it.
Well, you bought it. It's this box. This is the Viscera of Puri.
The what of which?
Some say it was made by a half-mad Kulu woman high in the hills. Some say it was created at the Devil's Shrine of Ao Chung in Tibet. But I believe it was made at the Temple of Puri and was stolen by one of the dancing girls.
Yes, but what does it all mean?
It's a charm for success and failure. It is 300 years old. It has gone from hand to hand.
And you're saying it brought me bad luck?
Yes.
Well, all right. Why?
Because you bought it. The legend says, if the Viscera be bought, within 3 years, it will turn against its owner and drive him to ruin and death.
But you still haven't told me why.
Whereas, if the Viscera be stolen, for 3 years, it will bring its owner his heart's desire.
Now, why is one in trouble if one buys it and in luck if one steals it.
Because it is a charm made in honor of Janira, the goddess of evil.
And I'm in trouble because I bought it.
Yes. Get rid of it.
Get rid of it?
Throw it into the river or destroy it.
Are you serious?
Melt down the silver box, burn the little wooden fish.
You are serious?
Yes, of course I'm serious. Think of all the terrible things that have happened to you since you bought it.
Well, some unfortunate things have taken place.
Well, doesn't that prove...
Prove what? I mean, anyone can get a streak of bad luck.
It is not a streak. Believe me, it will just get worse and worse. It'll never change.
Well, that's where you're wrong. It has changed. It started to get better.
Oh, has it?
Of course. Just this afternoon, the loveliest girl in the world, Millicent Hollis, agreed to become my wife.
John, I'm telling you, destroy that little fish in its silver box.
Nonsense, Tom.
John, I'm frightened. Truly frightened for you. Get rid of it.
But it's such a pretty little thing.
It's a deadly little thing.
You really believe that, don't you?
Yes, I do believe it. There is proof.
Oh, of course. When you need proof, you can always manage to find it. What's that thing called again?
The Viscera of Puri.
Yes. Well, here's what Major John Llewellyn Chesterton of Her Majesty's Royal Bengal Lancers has to say to this whatchamacallit, the thingamajig.
The Viscera of Puri.
Yes. Go ahead. I defy you. Do your worst.
Now you know, and I know, that he really should have not said that. Especially on this program. You just don't fool around with charms that are made for the goddess of evil, Janira, herself. If you're waiting for the lightning to strike, you'll just have to wait a few minutes longer. And then I shall return with Act 3. What do the psychiatrists say? They say words like accident-prone. They talk about things like the death wish. What is luck? Some say it's providence rolling the dice. Good luck, bad luck. Can you understand it? Much less explain it. Where do you get it? How do you keep it? Seemingly trivial questions. But isn't luck the foundation of everyone's life? It starts at the very beginning. Why is one man born poor, another rich, one handsome, another homely? Who can answer? Is it the Viscera of Puri?
Go ahead. I defy you. Do your worst.
John, you shouldn't have said that.
Said what?
This defiance that you just hurled at the Viscera.
Do you know something, Tom? You've just proved to me that I was a complete fool.
John, listen to me.
Only this afternoon. I was talking just the way you are now, about luck and fate. I was in a blue funk about all this superstitious rot. Well, there's nothing like hearing someone else spout your own ideas to demonstrate how ridiculous they may sound.
But the terrible thing about it, John, is that it happens to be true.
I'll tell you what happens to be true, Tom. Too much reading. Too much being cooped up inside a dusty office. It softened your once brilliant brain.
Oh, John, I wish I could get
Shut
through
the whole silly business. Apply for reappointment into the real world. Come back into the army.
John, destroy it.
The fact is, I've decided to give it to Millicent as a wedding gift.
Oh, no,
You
no.
won't find a more handsome piece of workmanship anywhere.
Isn't there anything I can say to convince you that this little box, the Viscera of Puri, is the cause of all your misfortune? Sahiba.
What is it, Lutu?
Sahib wishes to see the heaven-born.
Major Chesterton.
It is not Major Chesterton. It is Captain Pack.
Captain Pack. Oh, no. Tell him I'm out.
As the heaven-born, come on.
Oh, no. Lutu, wait. Poor wretched man, he wants to apologize. All right. Have him come in.
Miss Hollis?
Captain Pack?
Miss Hollis, I've come here to give you another chance.
Another chance?
The other night at the ball, I asked if you would do me the honor to become my wife. Do you remember?
I seem to remember.
I return now to tell you that I am willing to do you the honor of becoming your husband.
You what?
Yes, Miss Hollis. I am willing to marry you. What do you say?
What? What do I say? Why, I say... Captain Pack, I must ask you to leave.
I'm not the best-looking fellow in the world, so why should a pretty girl want me? It's time you learned your place, my dear. Why would a handsome fellow want you, eh?
What? Captain...
John Chesterton is the handsomest officer in the regiment. He can have his pick. Why did he choose you?
I don't know. I feel...
I'll tell you why. Because your father is Colonel Hollis of the Bengal Lancers, that's why.
No.
Colonel Hollis is a good man to know if you want to get a new lightweight saddle approved.
I don't...
You and me, my girl, we belong together. You know it. In your heart and soul, you know it. You know it, don't you? Answer. Speak when I command you.
Yes.
And you love me. You've always loved me.
Yes.
And you fought against it because your head was turned by that foolish Major Turton. Isn't that true?
Yes.
And you will marry me?
Yes.
Say it again.
Yes.
Again and again and again.
Yes.
Sergeant, dismiss the troop.
Face!
Well, afternoon, Major. Fine-looking troop of men you have there. Splendid body. I dropped by to thank you for having me over to your rooms the other night.
Well, I hope you had an enjoyable evening, Pack.
Yes, of course. I wonder if you'd do me a service, old chap.
What sort of service?
I'm to be married.
Married?
And I wondered if you'd stand up for me. Best man and all that, you know.
Who's the lucky girl?
Oh, you know her.
Oh, do I?
Colonel Hollis' daughter, Millicent.
Millicent? Oh, what sort of ghastly joke is this, Captain?
The little lady, well, she's not really little, gave me her promise just an hour ago.
Oh, filthy swine. Get off your horse. I'll teach you a lesson you'll never forget.
And what will that prove? The lady made her choice, and she has chosen me.
Well, we'll see about that.
Heaven born,
Yes, Latouche.
the Major Churitan, he wishes...
No, Latouche, tell him I cannot.
But you shall, Millicent. You will see me, and you will explain.
Please, John, there's nothing I can say.
Oh, yes, there is. You had promised to marry me.
I know.
You said you loved me.
I know.
Well, was it a lie?
It was a mistake.
All right. I can accept that. It was a mistake. Don't marry me. You don't love me. But how can you marry that wizened, slimy, evil, nasty Roderick Pack? Don't tell me you love him.
Oh, I do.
How can you love Roderick Pack?
I don't know. But I love him. I can't help it, but I love him.
John,
Come in, Tom. Come in.
I got your wire, and I came as quickly as I could.
She's thrown me over, Tom.
Millicent? That's impossible.
Oh, that's not even the worst of it. Guess who she intends to marry?
Captain Pack.
How did you know?
What else could it be?
Well, I'm ready to admit it now. It's that box. That damn little box. It's well on its way to destroy me completely.
I'm sorry.
Is it too late to destroy it now?
She's already promised to marry him. I suppose it may be too late for that. But you have to think of yourself. It's not too late to save your life. Get rid of it.
But I'm afraid to touch it, Tom. I'm even afraid to look at it. That's why I asked you down here. Would you... could you...
Of course I will. Where is it?
Well, where it's always been, on the mantel.
Well, your luck has changed now.
When it's too late?
Well, it's never too late for the change of luck. Are you sure you left it on the mantel?
Yes, of course. I haven't touched it since you were here last.
Well, it isn't here.
It what?
It isn't here.
Well, it has to be.
You haven't put it somewhere else.
No, I haven't.
It's been stolen.
What? Stolen? But by whom?
Pack. Roderick Pack.
Pack?
Do you think it's beyond him?
No, but how would he know?
He must have overheard our conversation.
But how could he? He was dead drunk. Wait. No, he's such a miserable sneak. Perhaps he pretended to be sleeping it off so that we would talk freely between ourselves. And he might pick up some tidbit of information.
He certainly did. The viscera of Puri. He who steals it will have his heart's desire. It's the only way to account for Millicent's behavior.
I'll kill the swine.
No. That won't bring Millicent back. She'll go on loving him for the rest of her life.
Yes, but we must do something.
Yes, of course.
And soon. Tomorrow night, Colonel and Mrs. Hollis are having a ball at the club to announce the engagement.
We'll have to steal it back.
Steal it? How? We can't just go into his quarters. Suppose we're caught. And with my luck, we'd be cashiered fast enough.
We'll be thankful I'm with the ethnological. Now listen to me. Tonight, an Afridi merchant is going to visit Captain Pack at his quarters. He is going to steal the viscera.
I don't understand.
Oh, it doesn't matter. You wait in the shade of the tree just beyond the compound. When this Afridi comes by, jump him.
But
Jump him. Take the viscera by force. Do you understand? By force.
Tom, what are you saying?
Just do as I tell you. Remember, he who steals the viscera shall have his heart's desire.
Yes?
Protector of the poor.
What do you want?
I want the viscera of Puri.
What are you talking about?
If the favored of the heavens will listen, we have traced the viscera to Simla. We must have it returned to the temple of Puri.
Why do you come to me?
Because you have the viscera.
You're crazy. Now get out of here, you filthy beggar, before I take a belt to you.
The viscera gives the heart's desire to whoever owns it. You now have your heart's desire.
Yes, well, I have another heart's desire.
Yes.
Money.
How much money?
1,000,000 rupees.
The temple of Puri will pay.
It will?
Yes. This is the way you will get your money. We will pay.
Well, show me the color of your money.
Show me the viscera.
Yeah. All right. But don't think you can pull one of your tricks. Put a bullet through you so fast.
Oh, I am a man of peace.
All right, you filthy dog. I'll show it to you. See? Here it is.
Ah, it is the viscera. The viscera of Puri at last.
And now, the money?
Oh, yes, the money. Here it is. No. Please, Sahib, I am a poor...
All right, hand it over.
No.
Hand it over, I said.
No. There, you hand it over. Have you got it in your pocket, John?
Oh, yes. Yes, it's in my pocket. And I'll never let go of it.
And what is your heart's desire?
My heart's desire has always been, is now, and will always be Millicent Hollis.
She's yours.
I hope so. I hope this hasn't all been for nothing.
Well, I got a black eye out of it. You know, you were quite realistic.
Ladies and gentlemen, may I have your attention? Ladies and gentlemen.
Look at that smirking weasel standing there with Millicent.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have an announcement.
Keep thinking it. My heart's desire is Millicent Hollis.
My heart's desire is Millicent Hollis.
Good, that's it.
Ladies and gentlemen.
Just a moment, Father. You can't make the announcement just yet.
Why not, my dear?
Well, John. Where's John? He should be at my side.
Why should John be... My dear, your fiancé belongs at your side. And he is...
Who?
Captain Peck.
What's he doing here?
Well, you accepted him.
What sort of a joke is this? How could I even think of marrying that loathsome toad? John? John, where are you?
I'm here, my darling.
Father, I intend to marry no one else but the man I love, John Chesterton. Oh, John. John.
Darling, everything's going to be all right.
Yes, I can get the hang of what women are all about. John, is he the one, Mary?
Oh, yes. Yes, Father. The only one.
Ladies and gentlemen, it gives me pleasure to announce the engagement of my daughter Millicent to Major John Chesterton. Unless, of course, she changes her mind again.
But she didn't. And they were married. And they were very happy because for 3 years, John was able to grant every wish their hearts desired. But after 3 years, believe it or not, somebody stole the Bisara of Puri from John Chesterton. But it really didn't matter. They lived happily ever after anyhow. I'll be happy if you wait for my return in just a little while. You will say it's all a made-up story. All right, believe it if you must. However, if one day you see a little silver ruby-studded box, a few inches long by a few inches wide, and within it a wooden fish without eyes wrapped in gold cloth, don't buy it. If you really must have it, steal it. Best of all, leave it alone. For it is the Bisara of Puri, and it is deadlier than the bite of the king cobra. Although it will take you a longer time to die. Our cast included Paul Hecht, Ralph Bell, Marion Seldes, and William Griffiths. The entire production was under the direction of Hyman Brown. And now, a preview of our next tale.
Hurry, Captain. Hurry, we're almost on the wave top.
Just one more cable to
What happened?
We took a wave broadside.
But look, it bounced the balloon up into the air. We're going to make it to land. We're going to... No, Top.
What is it, Nab?
The captain, Dad. The captain, he's gone. And Top went in after him. It was true. A wave struck the balloon and carried away Captain Harding and the dog. And the loss of their weight had been just enough to let the collapsing balloon rise and the wind to carry it towards the land. Now, just before we came to the shore, the balloon, half inflated, fell again to the sea. And with the wind driving it and us clinging to the mesh, we were rushed to the shore, battered by the surf, fighting our way to shore, exhausted and half dead.
Radio Mystery Theater was sponsored in part by Buick Motor Division. This is E.G. Marshall inviting you to return to our Mystery Theater for another adventure in the macabre. Until next time, pleasant dreams.
If by Rudyard Kipling, read for LibriVox.org by Phil Chenevert. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about don't deal in lies, or being hated don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken and stoop and build 'em up with worn-out tools. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss, if you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, "Hold on." If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and, which is more, you'll be a man, my son. End of poem. This recording is in the public domain.
Introduction to American Notes. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Tim Bulkley of BigBible.org. American Notes by Rudyard Kipling. Introduction. In an issue of the London World in April 1890, there appeared the following paragraph. 2 small rooms connected by a tiny hall afford sufficient space to contain Mr. Rudyard Kipling, the literary hero of the present hour, the man who came from nowhere, as he says himself, and who a year ago was consciously nothing in the literary world. 6 months previous to this, Mr. Kipling, then but 24 years old, had arrived in England from India, to find that fame had preceded him. He had already gained fame in India, where scores of cultured and critical people, after reading departmental ditties, plain tales from the hills, and various other stories and verses, had stamped him for a genius. Fortunately for everybody who reads, London interested and stimulated Mr. Kipling, and he settled down to writing The Record of Mandalay Herodsfoot, and his first novel, The Light That Failed, appeared in 1890 and 1891. Then a collection of verse, Life's Handicap, being stories of mine own people, was published simultaneously in London and New York City. Then followed more verse, and so on through an unending series. In 1891, Mr. Kipling met the young author Wilcock Balestier, at that time connected with the London publishing house. A strong attachment grew between the two, and several months after their first meeting they came to Mr. Balestier's Vermont home, where they collaborated on The Naulahka, a Story of West and East. for which the Century paid the largest price ever given by an American magazine for a story. The following year Mr. Kipling married Mr. Balestier's sister in London and brought her to America. The Balestiers were of an aristocratic New York family. The grandfather of Mrs. Kipling was J. M. Balestier, a prominent lawyer in New York City and Chicago, who died in 1888, leaving a fortune of about $1 million. Her maternal grandfather was E. Peshine Smith of Rochester, New York, a noted author and jurist, who was selected in 1871 by Secretary Hamilton Fish to go to Japan as the Mikado's adviser in international law. The ancestral home of the Balestiers was near Brattleboro, Vermont, and here Mr. Kipling brought his bride. The young Englishman was so impressed by the Vermont scenery that he rented for a time the cottage on the Bliss Farm, in which Steele Mackay, the playwright, wrote the well-known drama Hazel Kirke. The next spring Mr. Kipling purchased from his brother-in-law, Beatty Balestier, a tract of land about 3 miles north of Brattleboro, Vermont, and on this erected a house at a cost of nearly $50,000, which he named the Naulahka. This was his home during his sojourn in America. Here he wrote when in the mood, and for recreation tramped abroad over the hills. His social duties at this period were not arduous, for to his home he refused admittance to all but tried friends. He made a study of the Yankee country dialect and character for The Walking Delegate, and while Captains Courageous, the story of New England fisher life, was before him, he spent some time among the Gloucester fishermen with an acquaintance who had access to the household gods of these people. He returned to England in August 1896, and did not visit America again until 1899, when he came with his wife and 3 children for a limited time. It is hardly fair to Mr. Kipling to call American Notes first impressions, for one reading them will readily see that the impressions are superficial, little thought being put upon the writing. They seem super-sarcastic, and would lead one to believe that Mr. Kipling is antagonistic to America in every respect. This, however, is not true. These notes aroused much protest and severe criticism when they appeared in 1891, and are considered so far beneath Mr. Kipling's real work that they have been nearly suppressed and are rarely found in a list of his writings. Their very caustic style is of interest to a student and lover of Kipling, and for this reason the publishers believe them worthy of a good binding. G.P.T. End of The Introduction. From Kipling's American Notes. Reading by Tim Bulkley of BigBible.org. Chapter 1 of American Notes. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Tim Bulkley of BigBible.org. American Notes by Rudyard Kipling. Chapter 1. At the Golden Gate. Serene, indifferent to fate, thou sittest at the western gate. Thou seest the white seas fold their tents, O warder of 2 continents. Thou drawest all things, small and great, to thee beside the western gate. This is what Bret Harte has written of the great city of San Francisco, and for the past fortnight I have been wondering what made him do it. There is neither serenity nor indifference to be found in these parts, and evil would it be for the continents whose wardship were entrusted to so reckless a guardian. Behold me, pitched neck and crop from 20 days of the high seas into the whirl of California, deprived of any guidance, and left to draw my own conclusions. Protect me from the wrath of an outraged community, if these letters be ever read by American eyes. San Francisco is a mad city, inhabited for the most part by perfectly insane people, whose women are of a remarkable beauty. When the city of Pekin steamed through the Golden Gate, I saw with great joy that the blockhouse which guarded the mouth of the finest harbor in the world, sir, could be silenced by 2 gunboats from Hong Kong with safety, comfort, and dispatch. Also, there was not a single American vessel of war in the harbor. This may sound bloodthirsty, but remember that I come with a grievance upon me, the grievance of pirated English books. Then a reporter leaped aboard, and, ere I could gasp, held me in his toils. He pumped me exhaustively while I was getting ashore, demanding of all things in the world news about Indian journalism. It's an awful thing to enter a new land with a new lie on your lips. I spoke the truth to the evil-minded custom-house man, who turned my most sacred raiment on a floor composed of stable refuse and pine splinters. But the reporter overwhelmed me not so much by his poignant audacity as his beautiful ignorance. I am sorry now that I did not tell him more lies as I passed into a city of 300,000 white men. Think of it. 300,000 white men and women gathered in one spot, walking upon real pavements in front of plate-glass windowed shops, and talking something that at first hearing was not very different from English. It was only when I tangled myself up in the hopeless maze of small wooden houses, dust, street refuse, and children who played with empty kerosene tins, that I discovered the difference of speech. "You want to go to the Palace Hotel?" said an amiable youth on a dray. "What the hell are you doing here, then?" "This is about the lowest ward in the city. Go 6 blocks north to the corner of Geary and Markey. Then walk around till you strike corner of Gutter and 16th, and that brings you there." I do not vouch for the literal accuracy of these directions, quoting but from a disordered memory. "Amen," I said. "And who am I that I should strike the corners of such as you name? Peradventure they may be gentlemen of repute, and might hit back." "Bring it down to dots, my son." I thought he would have smitten me, but he didn't. He explained that no one ever used the word street, and that everyone was supposed to know how streets ran, for sometimes the names were upon the lamps, and sometimes they weren't. Fortified with these directions, I proceeded till I found a mighty street, full of sumptuous buildings 4 and 5 stories high, but paved with rude cobblestones, after the fashion of the year 1. Here a tram-car, without any visible means of support, slid stealthily behind me and nearly struck me in the back. This was the famous cable car of San Francisco, which runs by gripping an endless wire sunk into the ground, and of which I will tell you more anon. 100 yards further there was a slight commotion in the street, a gathering together of 3 or 4, something that glittered as it moved very swiftly. A ponderous Irish gentleman, with priest's cords in his hat and a small nickel-plated badge on his fat bosom, emerged from the knot, supporting a Chinaman who had been stabbed in the eye and was bleeding like a pig. The bystanders went their ways, and the Chinaman, assisted by the policeman, his own. Of course, this was none of my business, but I rather wanted to know what had happened to the gentleman who had dealt the stab. It said a great deal for the excellence of the municipal arrangement of the town that a surging crowd did not once block the street to see what was going forward. I was the 6th man and the last who assisted at the performance, and my curiosity was 6 times the greatest. Indeed, I felt ashamed of showing it. There were no more incidents till I reached the Palace Hotel, a 7-storied warren of humanity with 1,000 rooms in it. All of the travel books will tell you about hotel arrangements in this country. They should be seen to be appreciated. Understand clearly, and this letter is written after 1,000 miles of experiences, that money will not buy you service in the West. When the hotel clerk, the man who awards your room to you, and who is supposed to give you information, when that resplendent individual stoops to attend to your wants, he does so whistling or humming or picking his teeth, or pauses to converse with someone he knows. These performances, I gather, are to impress upon you that he is a free man and your equal. From his general appearance and the size of his diamonds, he ought to be your superior. There is no necessity for this swaggering self-consciousness of freedom. Business is business, and the man who is paid to attend to a man might reasonably devote his whole attention to the job. Out of office hours, he can take his coach and 4 and pervade society if he pleases. In a vast marble-paved hall, under the glare of an electric light, sat 40 or 50 men, and for their use and amusement were provided spittoons of infinite capacity and generous gape. Most of the men wore frock-coats and top hats, the things that we in India put on to wedding breakfast if we possess them, but they all spat. They spat on principle. The spittoons were on the staircases, in each bedroom, yea, in the chambers even more sacred than these. They chased one into retirement, but they blossomed in chiefest splendour around the bar, and they were all used, every reeking one of them. Just before I began to feel deathly sick, another reporter grappled me. What he wanted to know was the precise area of India in square miles. I referred him to Whittaker. He'd never heard of Whittaker. He wanted it from my own mouth, and I would not tell him. Then he swerved off, just like the other man, to details of journalism in our own country. I ventured to suggest that the interior economy of a paper most concerned the people who worked it. "That's the very thing that interests us," he said. "Have you got reporters, anything like our reporters, on Indian newspapers?" "Oh, we have not," I said, and suppressed the "thank God" rising to my lips. "Why haven't you?" said he. "Because they would die," I said. It was exactly like talking to a child, a very rude little child. He would begin almost every sentence with, "Now tell me something about India," and would turn aimlessly from one question to the other without the least continuity. I was not angry, but keenly interested. The man was a revelation to me. To his questions I returned answers mendacious and evasive. After all, it really did not matter what I said. He could not understand. I can only hope and pray that none of the readers of the Pioneer will ever see that portentous interview. The man made me out to be an idiot, several sizes more drivelling than my destiny intended, and the rankness of his ignorance managed to distort the few poor facts with which I supplied him into large and elaborate lies. Then, thought I, the matter of American journalism shall be looked into later on. At present I will enjoy myself. No man rose to tell me what were the lions of the place. No one volunteered any sort of conveyance. I was absolutely alone in this big city of white folk. By instinct I sought refreshment, and came upon a bar-room full of bad salon pictures in which men with hats on the backs of their heads were wolfing food from a counter. It was the institution of the free lunch I had struck. You paid for a drink, and got as much as you wanted to eat. For something less than a rupee a day, a man can feed himself sumptuously in San Francisco, even though he be a bankrupt. Remember this if ever you are stranded in these parts. Later, I began a vast but unsystematic exploration of the streets. I asked for no names. It was enough that the pavements were full of white men and women, the streets clanging with traffic, and that the restful roar of a great city rang in my ears. The cable cars glided to all points of the compass at once. I took them one by one till I could go no further. San Francisco has been pitched down on the sand bunkers of the Bikaneer Desert. About 1/4 of it is ground reclaimed from the sea. Any old-timers will tell you all about that. The remainder is just ragged, unthrifty sandhills, today pegged down by houses. From an English point of view, there has not been the least attempt at grading those hills. And indeed you might as well try to grade the hillocks of Sind. The cable cars have for all practical purposes made San Francisco a dead level. They take no count of rise or fall, but slide equably on their appointed courses from one end to the other of a 6-mile street. They turn corners almost at right angles, cross other lines, and, for aught I know, may run up the sides of houses. There is no visible agency of their flight, but once in a while you shall pass a 5-storied building humming with machinery that winds up an everlasting wire cable, and the initiated will tell you that here is the mechanism. I gave up asking questions. If it pleases Providence to make a car run up and down a slit in the ground for many miles, and if, for 2 halfpenny, I can ride in that car, why shall I seek the reasons of the miracle? Rather, let me look out of the windows till the shops give place to thousands and thousands of little houses made of wood, to imitate stone, each house just big enough for a man and his family. Let me watch the people in the cars, and try to find out in what manner they differ from us, their ancestors. It grieves me now that I cursed them in the matter of book piracy, because I perceive that my curse is working, and that their speech is becoming a horror already. They delude themselves into the belief that they talk English, the English, and I have already been pitied for speaking with an English accent. The man who pitied me spoke, as far as I was concerned, in the language of thieves. And they all do. Where we put the accent forward, they throw it back. And vice versa. Where we give a long A, they use the short. And words so simple as to be past mistaking, they pronounce somewhere up in the dome of their heads. How do these things happen? Oliver Wendell Holmes says that the Yankee schoolmarm, the cider and the salt codfish of the Eastern States are responsible for what he calls a nasal accent. I know better. They stole books from across the water without paying for 'em, and the snort of delight was fixed in their nostrils for ever by a just providence. That's why they talk a foreign tongue today. Cats is dogs, and rabbits is dogs, and so's parrots. But this here tortoise is an insect, so there ain't no charge, as the old porter said. A Hindu is a Hindu, and a brother to the man who knows his vernacular, and a Frenchman is French because he speaks his own language. But the American has no language. He is dialect, slang, provincialism, accent, and so forth. Now that I've heard their voices, all the beauty of Bret Harte is being ruined for me, because I find myself catching through the roll of his rhythmical prose the cadence of his peculiar fatherland. Get an American lady to read to you How Santa Claus Came to Simpson's Bar, and see how much is under her tongue left of the beauty of the original. But I'm sorry for Bret Harte. It happened this way. A reporter asked me what I thought of the city, and I made answer, suavely, that it was hallowed ground to me because of Bret Harte. That was true. Well, said the reporter, Bret Harte claims California, but California don't claim Bret Harte. He's been so long in England that he's quite English. Have you ever seen our cracker factories or the new offices of the Examiner? He could not understand that to the outside world the city was worth a great deal less than the man. I never intended to curse the people with a provincialism so vast as this. But let us return to our sheep, which means the sea lions of the Cliff House. They are the great show of San Francisco. You take a train which pulls up the middle of the street. It killed 2 people the day before yesterday, being unbraked and driven absolutely regardless of consequences. And you pull up somewhere at the back of the city on the Pacific beach. Originally, the cliffs and their approaches must have been pretty, but they've been so carefully defiled with advertisements that they are now one big blistered abomination. 100 yards from the shore stood a big rock covered with the carcasses of the sleek sea beasts, who roared and rolled and walloped in the spouting surges. No bold man had painted the creatures sky blue or advertised newspapers on their backs. Wherefore they did not match the landscape, which was chiefly hoarding. Some day, perhaps, whatever sort of government may obtain in this country will make a restoration of the place and keep it clean and neat. At present, the sovereign people, of whom I have heard so much already, are vending cherries and painting the virtues of little bile beans all over it. Night fell over the Pacific, and the white sea fog whipped through the streets, dimming the splendors of the electric lights. It is the use of this city, her men and womenfolk, to parade between the hours of 8 and 10 a certain street called Cairn Street, where the finest shops are situated. Here the click of high heels on the pavement is loudest, here the lights are brightest, and here the thunder of the traffic is most overwhelming. I watched young California, and saw that it was, at least, expensively dressed, cheerful in manner, and self-asserting in conversation. Also, the women were very fair. Perhaps 18 days aboard ship had something to do with my unreserved admiration. The maidens were of generous build, large, well-groomed, and attired in raiment that even to my inexperienced eyes must have cost much. Cairn Street, at 9 o'clock, levels all distinction of rank as impartially as the grave. Again and again I loitered at the heels of a couple of resplendent beings, only to overhear, when I expected the level voice of culture, the staccato "Says he, says I," that's the mark of the white servant girl all the world over. This was depressing, because, in spite of all that goes to the contrary, fine feathers ought to make fine birds. There was wealth, unlimited wealth, in the streets, but not an accent that would have been dear at 50 cents. Wherefore, revolving in my mind that these folk were barbarians, I was presently enlightened and made aware that they also were the heirs of all the ages and civilized after all. There appeared before me an affable stranger of prepossessing appearance, with a blue and an innocent eye. Addressing me by name, he claimed to have met me in New York at the Windsor, and to this claim I gave a qualified assent. I did not remember the fact, but since he was so certain of it, why then, I waited developments. "And what did you think of Indiana when you came through?" was the next question. It revealed the mystery of previous acquaintance, and one or two other things. With reprehensible carelessness, my friend of the light blue eye had looked up the name of his victim in the hotel register, and read Indiana for India. The provincialism with which I had cursed his people extended to himself. He could not imagine an Englishman coming through the States from west to east instead of the regularly ordained route. My fear was that in his delight in finding me so responsive he would make remarks about New York and the Windsor which I could not understand. And indeed he had ventured in this direction once or twice, asking me what I thought of such and such streets, which from his tone I gathered to be anything but respectable. It is trying to talk unknown New York in almost unknown San Francisco. But my friend was merciful. He protested that I was one after his own heart, and pressed upon me rare and curious drinks at more than one bar. These drinks I accepted with gratitude, and also the cigars with which his pockets were stored. He would show me the life of the city. Having no desire to watch a dreary old play again, I evaded the offer, and received, in lieu of the devil's instruction, much coarse flattery. Curiously constituted is the soul of man. Knowing how and where this man lied, waiting idly for the finale, I was distinctly conscious, as he bubbled compliments in my ear, of soft thrills of gratified pride stealing from hat-rim to boot-heels. I was wise, quoth he. Anybody could see that with half an eye. Sagacious, versed in the ways of the world, an acquaintance to be desired, one who had tasted the cup of life with discretion. All this pleased me, and in a measure numbed the suspicion that was thoroughly aroused. Eventually the blue-eyed one discovered, nay, insisted, that I had a taste for cards. This was clumsily worked in, but it was my fault, for in that I met him half-way, and allowed him no chance of good acting. Hereupon I laid my head on one side and simulated unholy wisdom, quoting odds and ends of poker talk, all ludicrously misapplied. My friend kept his countenance admirably, and well he might, for 5 minutes later we arrived, always by the purest of chance, at a place where we could play cards, and also frivol with Louisiana State Lottery tickets. Would I play? Nay, said I. For to me cards have neither meaning nor continuity. But let's assume that I am going to play. How would you and your friends get to work? Would you play a straight game, or make me drunk? Or, well, the fact is, I'm a newspaper man, and I'd be much obliged if you'd let me know something about bunco steering. My blue-eyed friend erected himself into an obelisk of profanity. He cursed me by his gods, the right and left bower. He even cursed the very good cigars he had given me. But the storm over, he quieted down and explained. I apologized for causing him to waste an evening, and we spent a very pleasant time together. Inaccuracy, provincialism, and the too hasty rushing to conclusions were the rocks that he had split on. But he got his revenge when he said, "How would I play with you? From all the poppycock, Anglice bosh you talked about poker, I'd have played a straight game and skinned you. I wouldn't have taken the trouble to make you drunk. You never knew anything of the game. But how I was mistaken in going to work on you makes me sick." He glared at me as though I had done him an injury. Today I know how it is that year after year, week after week, the bunco steerer, who is the confidence trick and card-sharper man of other climes, secures his prey. He clavers them over with flattery as a snake clavers the rabbit. The incident depressed me, because it showed that I had left the innocent East far behind, and was come to a country where a man must look out for himself. The very hotels bristled with notices about keeping my door locked and depositing my valuables in a safe. The white man in a lump is bad. Weeping softly for Otoyo, little I knew then that my heart was to be torn afresh from my bosom, I fell asleep in the clanging hotel. Next morning I had entered upon the deferred inheritance. There are no princes in America, at least with crowns on their heads, but a generous-minded member of some royal family received me a letter of introduction. Ere the day closed, I was a member of the 2 clubs, and booked for many engagements to dinner and party. Now, this prince, upon whose financial operations be continual increase, had no reason, nor had the others, his friends, to put themselves out for the sake of one Briton more or less. But he rested not until he had accomplished all in my behalf that a mother could think of for her debutante daughter. Do you know the Bohemian Club of San Francisco? They say its fame extends over the world. It was created, somewhat on the lines of the Savage, by men who wrote or drew things, and has blossomed into most unrepublican luxury. The ruler of the place is an owl standing upon a skull and crossbones, showing forth grimly the wisdom of the man of letters and the end of his hopes for immortality. The owl stands on the staircase, a statue 4 feet high, is carved in the woodwork, flutters on the frescoed ceiling, is stamped on the note paper, hangs on the walls. He is an ancient and honourable bird. Under his wing 'twas my privilege to meet with white men whose lives were not chained down to routine of toil, who wrote magazine articles instead of reading them hurriedly in the pauses of office work, who painted pictures instead of contenting themselves with cheap etchings picked up at another man's sale of effects. Mine were all the rights of social intercourse, craft by craft, that India, stony-hearted stepmother of collectors, has swindled us out of. Treading soft carpets and breathing the incense of superior cigars, I wandered from room to room, studying the paintings in which the members of the club had caricatured themselves, their associates, and their aims. There was a slick French audacity about the workmanship of these men of toil unbending that went straight to the heart of the beholder, and yet it was not altogether French. A dry grimness of treatment, almost Dutch, marked the difference. The men painted as they spoke, with certainty. The club indulges in revelries which it calls jinks, high and low, at intervals, and each of these gatherings is faithfully portrayed in oils by hands that know their business. In this club were no amateurs spoiling canvas because they fancied they could handle oils without knowledge of shadows or anatomy, no gentlemen of leisure ruining the temper of publishers and an already ruined market with attempts to write, because everybody writes something these days. My hosts were working, or had worked for their daily bread with pen and or paint, and their talk, for the most part, was of the shop. Shoppy, that is to say, delightful. They extended a large hand of welcome, and were as brethren, and I did homage to the owl and listened to their talk. An Indian club about Christmas time will yield, if properly worked, an abundant harvest of queer tales. But at a gathering of Americans from the uttermost ends of their own continent, the tales are larger, thicker, more spinous, and even more azure than any Indian variety. Tales of war I heard told by an ex-officer of the South over his evening drink to a colonel of the Northern Army, my introducer, who had served as a trooper in the Northern Horse, throwing in emendations from time to time. Tales of the law, which in this country is an amazingly elastic affair, followed from the lips of a judge. Forgive me for recording one tale that struck me as new. It may interest the up-country bar in India. Once upon a time there was Samuelson, a young lawyer who feared not God, neither regarded the bench. Name, age, and town of the man were given at great length. To him no case had ever come as a client, partly because he lived in a district where lynch law prevailed, and partly because the most desperate prisoner shrunk from entrusting himself to the mercies of a phenomenal stammerer. But in time there happened an aggravated murder, so bad indeed that by common consent the citizens decided, as a prelude to lynching, to give the real law a chance. They could, in fact, gamble around that murder. They met, the court in its shirt-sleeves, and against the raw square of the court-house window a temptingly suggestive branch of a tree fretted the sky. No one appeared for the prisoner, and, partly in jest, the court advised young Samuelson to take up the case. "The prisoner is undefended, Sam," said the court. "The square thing to do would be for you to take him aside and do the best you can for him." Court, jury, and witness then adjourned to the veranda, while Samuelson led his client aside to the court-house cells. An hour passed ere the lawyer returned alone. Mutely the audience questioned. "May it please the court," said Samuelson, "my client's case is a bad one. A damn bad one. You told me to do the best I could for him, Judge. So I've just given him your bay gelding and told him to light out for healthier climes. My professional opinion being he ought to be hanged quicker'n Hades if he dallied here. But by this time my client's about 15 mile out yonder somewheres. That was the best I could do for him. May it please the court." The young man, escaping punishment in lieu of the prisoner, made his fortune ere 5 years. Other voices followed with equally wondrous tales of riata throwing in Mexico and Arizona, of gambling at army posts in Texas, of newspaper wars waged in godless Chicago. I could not help being interested, but they were not pretty tricks. Of deaths sudden and violent in Montana and Dakota, of the loves of half-breed maidens in the South, and fantastic huntings for gold in mysterious Alaska. Above all, they told the story of the building of old San Francisco, when "the finest collection of humanity on God's earth, sir, started this town, and the water came up to the foot of Market Street." Very terrible were some of the tales, grimly humorous the others, and the men in broadcloth and fine linen who told them had played their parts in them. And now and again, when things got too bad, they would toll the city bell, and the Vigilance Committee turned out and hanged the suspicious characters. A man didn't begin to be suspected in those days till he'd committed at least one unprovoked murder, said a calm-eyed, portly old gentleman. I looked at the pictures around me, the noiseless, neat-uniformed waiter behind me, the oak-ribbed ceiling above, the velvet carpet beneath. It was hard to realize that even 20 years ago you could see a man hanged with great pomp. Later on I found reason to change my opinion. The tales gave me a headache and set me thinking. How in the world was it possible to take in even 1/1000th of this huge, roaring, many-sided continent? In the tobacco-scented silence of the sumptuous library lay Professor Bryce's book on the American Republic. "It is an omen," said I. "He has done all things in all seriousness, and he may be purchased for half a guinea. Those who desire information of the most undoubted must refer to his pages. For me is the daily round of vagabondage, the recording of the incidents of the hour, and the intercourse with the travelling companion of the day. I will not do this country at all." And I forgot all about India for 10 days, while I went out to dinners and watched the social customs of the people, which are entirely different from our customs, and was introduced to men of many millions. These persons are harmless in their earlier stages. That is to say, a man worth $3 or $4 million may be a good talker, clever, amusing, and of the world. A man with twice that amount is to be avoided, and a 20 million man is just 20 millions. Take an instance. I was speaking to a newspaper man about seeing the proprietor of his journal, as in my innocence I supposed newspaper men occasionally did. My friend snorted indignantly. "See him? Great Scott, no! If he happens to appear in the office, I have to associate with him, but, thank heaven, outside of that I move in circles where he cannot come. And yet, the first thing I have been taught to believe is that money was everything in America." End of Chapter 1. Recording by Tim Bulkley of BigBible.org.
It's time to escape into the world of adventure. Time to forget for the next half hour the four walls of today and escape beyond the horizons of the mind to yesterday and tomorrow. CBS and its affiliated stations present Escape. Tonight, we escape with Rudyard Kipling and the two gentle scoundrels he created in his immortal story, The Man Who Would Be King. The time, sometime before yesterday. The place, the north of India. The man who tells the story, Rudyard Kipling.
One Saturday night, it was my unpleasant duty to put the paper to bed alone. It was a pitchy black night, as stifling as night can be in India in June. It was very still, save for the ticking of the clock above my desk, which seemed to shatter the black heat of the night as the hands crept toward 3 a.m. And then from the passage outside my door,
Hey, Peachy.
I heard voices.
Your light burning. And he must be here. Open the door.
Who's there?
Only us.
Who are you?
He don't remember us, Dan.
That he don't.
How could he forget having us turned back at the Jodhpur border? Told the authorities we was impersonating newspaper reporters, he did.
Wait. That flaming red beard and that bald head. Why, you're Daniel Dravett and Peachy Carnahan.
The same.
Well, what do you want? If it's money, I haven't any. If it's a fight, it's simply too beastly hot.
You can rest yourself easy, sir, because we've come asking for naught except some information.
We've been all over this country, and we've concluded that India isn't big enough for such as Daniel and me.
So we're going away to be kings.
Kings in our own divine right.
What?
Aye, we shall be kings.
We've signed a solemn contract, each to help the other, and neither of us to take a look at liquor or women until we become kings.
Why, I've never heard of such a fantastic idea. But what is it you want of me?
Naught but to look at such maps of Kafiristan as you might have about.
Maps of Kafiristan?
That's where we've decided to go.
But don't you realize that not one single Englishman has ever gone into the Kafiristan mountains and lived to come out again? If you're really mad enough to go there, you're a good deal more likely to become dead men than kings.
We shall see.
Anyway, I don't believe you have the slightest intention of traveling a mile outside of Delhi.
Then you should come down to the Serai marketplace in the morning, down where the caravans leave for the north.
Yes, come down to the Serai in the morning and see then if we be liars. Oh, thieves, robbers, liars, the blessing of Pir Khan upon all pigs, dogs and perjurers. Who will take the protection of heaven to the north?
You should not laugh at him, Sahib. The witless are under the protection of Allah.
Quite so, boy. Who is the fellow anyway?
A mad priest, Sahib, who has arrived only this morning from Ajmer.
Ah, yes, Sahib. Come to look at my camels, loaded with toys to please the eye of an Amir.
Oh, here now. Go about your business. I haven't any use for toys.
These are wondrous toys indeed, Sahib. Fit for a king of Kafiristan.
What? Good Lord. Daniel Dravett.
Quiet. Come along. I've 2 camels just beyond the wall here. The blessings of Pir Khan on the gracious Sahib, who consents to look at the poor toys of a priest from Ajmer. Over this way.
Where's Carnahan?
Here we are. Permit me to present my servant, Hazir Mir Khan.
At your service, goodman.
Well, I'll be...
Do you like our disguises? Do they pass?
If they fool this crowd in the Serai, they're probably good enough to get you across the border and good enough to get you killed.
Getting killed is no part of the contract Peachy and me drawed up, although perhaps killing fits in with our plans in a different sense. Feel around underneath the toys there in the camel bags.
What?
Go ahead.
Good Lord. Rifles.
20 brand new martinis with ammunition to match.
And 20 good reasons to make your death certain. Any Pathan of the hill tribes would kill his own mother to get a rifle.
Now who would harm a poor mad priest, Sahib? Allah protects me.
Mad is right.
Then so was Lord Clive and Rhodes and Bonaparte. Drive out the camels, Peachy. We've a long way to go before we become kings.
Hey, up!
As I stood and listened to the camel bells fade away in the distance, I wondered if it might not be a glorious thing to go to Kafiristan and be a king. 3 years pass in India, much as they pass in any other land. It grows hot, then the rains come, and then the heat again. Some colonel at a hill station puts down an uprising. A new viceroy comes out from London, and the paper duly records the death of a sultan in Rajputana, and the trees in the courtyard grow a few feet taller. Finally, time in its circle turned up another night, much like the one 3 years before. Once again, I sat alone in the office, listening to the clock and waiting for some unimportant item to come over the wire from Europe. It was long after midnight when my office door slowly opened. I say, look here, you might knock first, you know.
Knock.
Good Lord, man. What's wrong?
You don't know who I am, do you?
No, I haven't the faintest idea. But here, you'd better sit down, old fellow. You're in a bad way.
Yes, sir. Thank you. It's a whole year I've been walking. Right here in this very office we settled it. You sitting right there and giving us the maps. You've been sitting there ever since. 3 years.
No. Oh, no. Why, a man couldn't change that much in 3 years. You're not Peachy Carnahan.
Yes. I was king of Kafiristan. Me and Daniel Dravit. Real crown kings we was. Just as true as gospel.
What in the name of heaven have they done to you, Peachy?
Peachy? I knew Peachy Carnahan once. He's a king. Wears a real golden crown on his head, so help me, he does. He's dead now, though.
No. You're Peachy Carnahan. You must pull yourself together, man.
Yes. Pull myself. You got to keep looking into my eyes. Then maybe everything won't go to pieces.
All right. Now, tell me what happened, Peachy.
We left the caravan at Jagdala. We struck off into the hills alone.
Go on.
Weeks it was we travelled, Daniel and me. First there wasn't no roads, and after a while, no food. But there was always the drums. Sometimes they was close, and sometimes farther off. But most of the time we could hear them somewhere.
Oi, up! Move along, up! Here now, it's no place to be stopping. Up with you.
I'm fearing it's no use, Daniel.
What's got into them?
The poor beasts are done in and starved, same as ourselves. They'll go no further.
Then we'll go on without them. I've not come this far to die on the side of a mountain.
Wait. Look, Daniel. Over the edge of the rocks.
What? Oh, men they are.
There'll be a score or more of them. One goes ahead of the rest.
And naught but bows and arrows. Break out a pair of the rifles, Peachy.
Right you are, Daniel.
It's now that we start to become kings.
Here, and some cartridges, too.
Easy now, Peachy. I'll drop the straggler at the rear first, and then we'll lay a few at their feet. No harm to the one in front. We may need him. Now. Got him by the old neck! Lay on, Peachy!
Hold it, Daniel! Look at them!
Aye, flat on their blooming faces.
The leader is come out alone.
Well and good, and we'll go part way to meet him, Peachy. But keep your rifle by.
Look at him, Daniel. He be as fair as us, with yellow hair.
So he does. Part of the lost tribes, these people are.
He stopped.
I await your command, or ye who speak in
Oh, the Lord Harry. Peachy, we're in luck. It's the old Afghan tongue he speaks. Speak up! Who are you, and whence do you come?
I am High Priest, and the chief of the village of Bashkai. A journey of only a few heartbeats.
This Bashkai, how many people?
They are numbered in the 1,000.
There are more villages in the hills?
More than a man has fingers and toes.
Hear that, Peachy? Here's our kingdom made to order. And you're going to take us to Bashkai. Do you understand?
I understand the voice of thunder that you speak.
Oh, he's a smooth one, Peachy. He knows a thing or two. What's your name?
Mazur Khan Jagdalur.
That's too long. What shall we call him, Peachy?
He has a look about him of an old soldiering friend of ours, Billy Fish.
So he does. We bestow a new name on you. From now on, you will be Billy Fish.
As you command, I obey.
All right. Put this on your drums. Tell them 2 kings have come out from the mountaintops. 2 kings that speak in words of thunder so the earth trembles. Tell them 2 kings have come to Kafiristan. That you, Peachy?
Daniel, why be you sitting here in the dark?
I've been thinking. A man has to stop and think sometimes.
About anything special, Daniel?
Look at 'em, Peachy. Look at their blinking campfires a-gleaming in the dark like the jewels in a crown.
Aye, Daniel. You've done a fine job for sure. All 23 villages you joined together as one.
'Tis the army you trained to be thanked for it. 2,000 men with a fair knowledge of bearing arms.
Some's a bit green at it yet.
They're ours now, every man, jack, woman, and child. We own 'em, body and soul.
Aye, we're kings now, Daniel. Not proper kings yet, but we will be.
Sooner than you think, Peachy.
How's that?
Billy Fish told me something today that fair amazed me. These people know the craft.
You mean they're Freemasons, Daniel? It ain't no wise possible.
So help me, it's gospel true. He give me the grip and everything. It's old, the craft is, older than the memory of man. And up here in the hills, they've been preserving it all these years. Why, some of the high priests know up through the fellow craft, but they don't know the 3rd degree. See it, Peachy? They don't know the 3rd degree, but we do.
Daniel, what is it you're fixing to do?
We're going to be proper kings. We're going to get 'em going and coming now. I'm going to turn the whole country into one grand lodge, raise some of the priests to 3rd degree, and for me, I'll be the Grand Master of Kafiristan.
Oh, but you ain't got the right to. We never been officers in no lodge.
Right? What's a king got to do with asking for a right?
Oh, I'm against it, Daniel. It's no good to go fooling around with the craft.
Ah, you talk like an old woman. The thing'll work, I know it will. We'll make it a blooming ceremony. Regular aprons with the symbol and the marks. All of us, Peachy. The kings of Kafiristan.
Everything is prepared, Master. And the priests and the people wait.
Well, they don't have to wait much longer, Billy. Here now, Peachy. How do you like my apron?
It's a wondrous sight for fair, Daniel.
Made of white ermine skin it is, and the master's mark with emeralds studded.
The mark? You know the meaning of the mark?
That I do. What's got into you, Billy?
Not. But 'tis a thing that's passing strange, Master.
Strange and rubbish. Come along now. Ready, Peachy?
Right with you, Daniel.
Then out we go. Onto the temple steps. We'll give 'em what for. Knock their blinking eyes out. That's what we'll do. Look at 'em, Peachy! Right down on their blooming knees and yelling their full heads off.
Oh, it's a good thing to be a king, Daniel.
The mark! Behold! The mark!
Tis a sign!
The promised ones have come!
Here now. What's wrong with the priest, Billy?
It looks like trouble, Daniel.
No. Stand where you are, Master. They recognize the mark.
That great stone in the floor. Why do they turn it over?
Wait.
It's the same!
He bears the mark!
The promised ones have come!
Speak up, Billy Fish. What's the meaning of it?
See for yourself. Look.
Daniel, carved on the back of the stone.
'Tis the master's mark, all right.
And the same as the sign you wear. Only a few of the priests have known of the hidden mark on the stone.
What does it mean?
The many who have doubted you were a god doubt no longer.
And you, Billy? What do you think?
I, Master? I think that now it is the time for these.
Daniel, golden crowns.
Aye, how they glitter. Fit for the brow of a king.
'Tis what we came for.
Here now, put 'em on. We'll crown ourselves in our own right. Listen to 'em. You know something, Peachy? We come here to be kings, and that we are, all right. But blamed if we ain't a couple of blooming gods to boot, with 1 million people bowing on their knees before us.
Well enough, Peachy. So it was gods you became as well as kings. But then, what happened? What became of Daniel Dravot?
Dravot? I knew Daniel Dravot once. He's a king now, Daniel is. Wears a golden crown. Canaan was with him.
Peachy, try to pull yourself together.
I'll try.
Now, you became kings, you and Daniel. Kings of all Kafiristan.
He was a fine figure, Daniel was, with his red head wearing that golden crown. Kept himself aloof from the people, so to speak. And when he walked before the temple, the fair crawled on their stomachs to worship him.
But what happened, man?
Happened? Well, I figure mostly it was winter coming on. The winds were starting up, and the clouds was blowing down from the north. Oh, it could blow beastly cold, that winter wind.
Hey? Who's out there? That you, Billy? Confound it anyway. Here now. What's this?
I have brought you food, Master. Stew of the wild sheep with curry and rice.
Up off your knees, girl. Bring it inside.
Thank you, Master.
Place it there. Now, you're a well-favored wench.
I do not understand.
Why were you crawling on your knees?
'Tis a fitting way to approach the god of Kafiristan.
What's your name, girl?
Maruma Penja.
Marum, eh? You married?
It has not yet been my happy fortune, Master.
Are you afraid of me?
You are a god.
I mean, how do I seem to you? Do you find me pleasing or what?
Your face is more wondrous than the noonday sun. And your look, the look of eagles.
Very well, you may leave now.
Thank you, Master.
Marum, eh? Peachy! Peachy!
Is you calling me, Daniel? Oh, the food's here, eh? Good.
Knock that wind outside. Winter's about due to strike and fill the trails with snow. There'll be little moving about afore spring.
Right you are.
Peachy, I've decided to take a wife.
But you can't do it, Daniel. We made a contract.
That was till we was kings. Well, kings we've been many months now.
Oh, but it's no good. I tell you now, I'm against it.
Against it? You was against using the craft, too. But look what it done for us.
Oh, but this is different. Billy Fish will tell you no, too, the same as I do.
Billy Fish, huh? Who's the king here, him or me? My mind's made up. 3 days from now, I shall have me a wife. and you can put it on the drums and tell every blighter out there in the hills. The kingdom of Kafiristan is going to have a queen. What's keeping her, Peachy? They should have brought her in here half an hour ago.
I don't know, Daniel.
How about you, Billy Fish? You put 'em up to stalling off deliberate-like?
Certain preparations must be made, Master.
She's across the court with some of the priests. Maybe they're trying to hearten her up a bit, Daniel. She thinks she's going to die, you know.
Die, indeed. Why, I'm only...
Master, it is against the laws of heaven for a woman to marry a god.
I'm not a god. I'm a man. You know that by now, Billy.
No, and I should not want to think so, Master. But either way, this can mean only trouble. I beg you to reconsider.
And I beg you to shut up, Billy. I'm through waiting. I'm going over there.
Master, please.
We got to go with him, Billy. And I'm thinking it's going to mean trouble. How many men can you depend on?
No more than 20 with rifles. Most of my men are in Bashkai.
Then what shall we do?
We shall have to make a run for it, I fear. We might be safe in Bashkai.
Come on now, you buckling fools. Bring out the girl. Well, now, that's better. Here, girl, this is no way for a bride to behave. Just smile now and give us a kiss. Oh! The wench has bitten me.
Bloodbuster, don't let them see the blood.
Look! See the blood! It's not a god or a devil, but only a man!
Here, blasted, what is this, rot?
Master, it is too late.
Mark, Daniel, they're coming with knives.
They can't do this. I'm the king.
We've got to run for it, Master.
Ah, come on, Daniel, come on.
Confounded heathens. I'll come back and beat their blasted heads in. That's what I'll do.
Oh, Daniel, we'll be back all right.
How much further, Billy?
Only a short way beyond this ridge, Master.
Well, so far, so good. At last, them blooming drums are stopped.
We're at the top, Daniel.
A right good climb it's been.
Oh, wait. Look. It seems the drums have come before us, Master.
Cut off. No less than 1,000 of them standing there quiet-like, with them wicked long knives in their hands.
There'll be no getting past them, Daniel.
No, we are done for. Go back, Billy Fish, and take your men away with you. Go with him, Peachy. It's me they want. I did it. Me, the king.
No, Dan. I'm sticking with you. Billy Fish, you clear out.
I am your friend. I stay with you.
You're a good man, Billy.
They be coming now, Daniel.
Peachy.
Forget it, Daniel. I forgive you freely and fully.
Then let them come. There'll be one thing they can't change, Peachy. We've been kings. Kings in our own right. Kings of all Kafiristan.
Sliced open poor Billy Fish like a bloomin' herring, they did. There in the snow and the rocks.
Good Lord, man. But you, Peachy, you got away from them.
Like nowhere did I get away from them. They had us for fair, all right. Strung me out on a tree. Drove nails right through my hands, they did. See? But I fooled them all right. 'Cause morning came, I wasn't nowise dead. And then I made them think I'd lost my senses. I was afraid to harm me because I was protected by Allah. They cut me down then, and after a while, they let me go.
You poor devil. But what of Dravot? What happened to Daniel?
Daniel is the king. He wears the golden crown.
But now, what happened to him?
He's never left me. All them long months walking on the road back, he kept me safe. The mountains, they danced at night. But Daniel held up his hand, and Peachy came along, bent double. I never let go of Daniel's hand, nor Daniel's head that they gave me in the temple as a present. It's with me now, here, in this bundle. You knew old Daniel, sir. Him that was a monarch once. Look at him now. Well, and now you've seen that we was really kings. I'll be on my way. You'll pardon me, sir?
I let him go. There was little else to do. He was only hours away from his death. I sat there and stared at the bundle he had left lying on my desk. Stared as the pale shafts of dawn struck fire in the red beard. Stared at the golden crown, sitting too large and heavy upon the wrinkled, mummified head of Daniel Dravot, the man who would be king.
Escape is produced and directed by William N. Robeson. Tonight's story, Rudyard Kipling's The Man Who Would Be King, was adapted for radio by Les Crutchfield and featured Raymond Lawrence as Peachy, Eric Snowden as Daniel Dravot, and Herbert Rawlinson as Kipling. Musical effects were created and conducted by Cy Feuer. Next week, CBS and its affiliated stations invite you to escape in Operation Fleur-de-Lis, an episode from the files of the OSS. And so, good night, until a week from tonight, when again we invite you to escape. This is CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System.
The National Broadcasting Company presents Lives of Great Men, a series on great leaders in human progress, presented by Dr. Edward Howard Griggs, distinguished lecturer, critic, and author of The Philosophy of Art and many other books. In his talk, Dr. Griggs is building a story of civilization based on outstanding characters through the ages and how each one influences his own and future times. This evening, Dr. Griggs will discuss Rudyard Kipling, interpreter of the British Empire. We present Edward Howard Griggs.
My friend, Rudyard Kipling has been one of the outstanding literary figures of our time. Writer of tales portraying both the English and the native life of India, of verses that revealed the British Tommy Atkins, and leading interpreter of the spirit of British imperialism. Almost forgotten in our absorption in vast changes since the World War, Kipling's recent death and now published autobiography have wakened fresh interest in him and in his delightful books. Moreover, his view of Britain's relation to the world has challenging appeal to her in the present critical hour of her destiny. Kipling was born in Bombay, India in 1865, and his earliest vague memories were of that colorful tropical land. His father was a gifted painter, later curator of the museum at Lahore and head of an art school. Kipling speaks of his mother as Celtic, fine, gifted, and a writer of poems. His initial view in telling his life story is that all things conspired in his favor. This shows his sanguine temperament, since many an one living through his early sufferings would have cried out against hampering fate. At 7, Kipling was taken to London and placed in a home for colonial officers' sons, kept by an evangelical but hard and heartless woman. 6 years the boy suffered in this house of desolation, meantime attending day school. 1 month each year was heaven, as December was spent at the home of his mother's sister, wife of the painter Burne-Jones. There, in an atmosphere of highest culture, he lived a normal child's life. The gifted older persons, including William Morris, Uncle Topsy, were playmates of the children. Kipling's cousin Stanley Baldwin was often of the group. Later on, his aunt asked him why he had not told of his 11 months' annual misery. Kipling thinks the answer is that children are like dumb animals, taking what comes, and also that he feared further beatings if he complained. The deeper reason, I think, was an instinctive stoicism, marking him from the start and throughout his life. His mother came home for a visit and quickly discovered the situation, for as she stooped to kiss her boy, he threw up his arm to ward off the expected blow. The next period was 4 years of schooling at the far end of England, Kipling and his sister living in a home of culture with 3 dear old ladies. The school's brutalities he later exploited in Stalky and Company. Nevertheless, he thinks the school years were of great value, particularly in training precision in writing and in opening to him the world of literature. He came upon Browning's Men and Women and was fascinated by the character portrayals, noting particularly the parallel of his early life and that of Fra Lippo Lippi. In both cases, the experience of the artist fitted him to portray the world as he saw it. At 17, he was offered the place of associate editor on an English newspaper in India, and eagerly accepting, returned to his native land. The work was fiercely demanding, extending to 16 hours a day. He experienced all the miseries of tropical heat and diseases, but stuck doggedly to his task. Kipling attributes to Walter Besant's All in the Garden Fair the inspiration to write of common things, observable in the world immediately about him. So began the plain tales from the hills and departmental ditties, published in several papers and periodicals. While this fine work was to become the foundation of his fame, it had for the time being only an indifferent audience. With the urge to write dominant, he sold the tales and verses so far produced to secure funds for a trip around the world to England. In the course of it, he crossed America from west to east. At that time, he was able to see something good in us, and his American letters, while castigating our obvious vices, are not like his later drastic criticism. On Kipling's arrival in England, success came quickly. Henley and other editors of magazines eagerly accepted his work, and he soon had money enough to buy back the stories and poems he had sold in India and republish them in England. At the same time, he began the Barrack Room Ballads, interpreting in dialect verse all aspects of the British soldier's life. Similar work followed through the years, gathered up in the 7 Seas and other volumes. As typical, here a part of the Song of the Banjo. You couldn't pack a Broadwood half a mile. You mustn't leave a fiddle in the damp. You couldn't brass an organ up the Nile and play it in an equatorial swamp. I travel with the cooking pots and pails. I'm sandwiched between the coffee and the pork, and when the dusty column checks and tails, you should hear me spur the rear guard to a walk with my Pilly, Willy, Winky, Winky, Pop. Oh, it's any tune that comes into my head, so I keep 'em moving forward till they drop, so I play 'em up to water and to bed. In the silence of the camp before the fight, when it's good to make your will and say your prayer, you can hear my strumpty-tumpty overnight, explaining 10 to 1 was always fair, with my toompa, 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 toomp. In the desert where the dung-fed camp smoke curled, there was never voice before us till I led our lonely chorus, I, the war drum of the white man round the world. Kipling has caught the very music of the banjo. His feeling for meter was one of his finest poetic gifts. An illness led to Kipling's tour in Italy. Since he went to visit the British Dominion, South Africa, Australia, and New Zealand, returning to India in company of General Booth of the Salvation Army, and then home to England. Kipling married an American girl at 27 and started with his wife on another world tour. He crossed our continent, got as far as Yokohama, when his bank's failure forced him to turn back. He went to the home of his wife's relatives in Vermont, living for a time in a small cottage near them. Success came quickly again as he developed a new field with the charming Jungle books, which with other stories added innumerable children to his wide audience. His Captain's Courageous, born of visits to Gloucester, Massachusetts, and attendance at the annual memorial service for fishermen lost at sea, has recently been made into an outstandingly great moving picture. American publishers begged for his books. Our public eagerly bought them, and he was able to build a beautiful Nalaka intended as a permanent home. He did not like his neighbors, however, and came to detest our conglomerate population, both native and immigrant. Our political chicanery and exploitation at that time of ignorant labor disgusted him. His most drastic comment on us occurs toward the close of his autobiography, in narrating a trip of continuous ovations in a private car furnished by the head of the Canadian Pacific Railway across Canada, taken because he had been told that Canada was coming out of its spiritual and material subjection to the United States. Contrasting the two peoples, he remarks, always the marvel to which the Canadians seemed insensible was that on one side of an imaginary line should be safety, law, honor, and obedience, and on the other, frank, brutal decivilization, and that despite this, Canada should be impressed by any aspect whatever of the United States. The autobiography does not mention the more pungent reason for his dislike, the long unjust quarrel inflicted on him by one of his wife's relatives, which, however, was more than sufficiently exploited in the press at the time. Thus, after some years, England looked more attractive to Kipling, and he abandoned us to our vices and returned to the seat of empire. We regret that Kipling may not be numbered among our American authors, but recognizing a measure of justice in his criticisms, it is easy to forgive his diatribes, since we are so used to being called bad names, Shylock and others, by those whom we have generously served. Before leaving America, Kipling had met Theodore Roosevelt and saw him again in England after the Spanish-American War. The two held much the same view of world relations. While criticizing Theodore Roosevelt's anti-British views, which he thought adopted for political purposes, Kipling says of him, "My own idea of him was that he was a much bigger man than his people understood or at that time knew how to use, and that he and they might have been better off had he been born 20 years later." For some time, Kipling lived half the year in England, half in South Africa. Cecil Rhodes became his close friend, and he knew and approved Jameson. He served Britain remarkably well in the Boer War. The use made a song of his absent-minded beggar, earned, he tells us, $1 million for the cause. In 1907, Kipling was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature. The recognition of his work was now worldwide. During the World War, he contributed poems and articles, but stood somewhat apart. In his later work is an increasing didactic element, but his imperialist views remained unchanged. It is strange that he was never made poet laureate, since no other poet of his time approximated him, either in interpreting England and her far-flung empire, or in the wide recognition he received. No poet laureate since Tennyson has written a patriotic hymn approximating in impressive dignity Kipling's recessional, "Lest We Forget." Surely no one has interpreted the finest spirit of British imperialism in carrying the white man's burden as he has done. Perhaps his criticism of governmental incompetence was too drastic. His singing of the sorrows of Tommy Atkins was too frank. Possibly the laurel crown might have been his, had he not written such poems as "The Sons of the Widow." Have you heard of the widow at Windsor, with a hairy gold crown on her head? She has ships on the foam, she has millions at home, and she pays us poor beggars in red. Oh, poor beggars in red. Then here's to the widow at Windsor, and here's to the stores and the guns, The men and the horses, what makes up the forces of Mrs. Victoria's son. Poor beggars, Victoria's son. Walk wide of the widow at Windsor, for half a creation she owns. We have bought her the same with the sword and the flame, and we've salted it down with our bones. Poor beggars, it's blue with our bones. Hands off of the sons of the widow. Hands off of the goods in her shop. For the kings must come down and the emperors frown when the widow at Windsor says stop. Poor beggars, we're sent to say stop. We have heard of the widow at Windsor. It's safest to let her alone. For her centuries we stand by the sea and the land wherever the bugles are blown. Then here's to the sons of the widow, wherever, however they roam. Here's all they desire, and if they require a speedy return to their own. Poor beggars, they'll never see home. Has there ever been written another poem as effective as this one in the cause of peace? The Recessional must be regarded as the crown of Kipling's work. While written as a sort of protest at the time of Queen Victoria's second jubilee, it gives just the appeal and warning all English-speaking peoples need at the present dark hour. God of our fathers, known of all, Lord of our far-flung battle line, beneath whose awful hand we hold dominion over palm and pine. Lord God of hosts, be with us yet, lest we forget, lest we forget. The tumult and the shouting dies, the captains and the kings depart. Still stands thine ancient sacrifice, an humble and a contrite heart. Lord God of hosts, be with us yet, lest we forget, lest we forget. Far called our navies melt away, on dune and headland sinks the fire. Lo, all our pomp of yesterday is one with Nineveh and Tyre. Judge of the nations, spare us yet, lest we forget, lest we forget. If drunk with sight of power we loose wild tongues that have not thee in awe, such boasting as the Gentiles use or lesser breeds without the law. Lord God of hosts, be with us yet, lest we forget, lest we forget.
Rudyard Kipling, interpreter of the British Empire, has been the subject of another program in the series titled Lives of Great Men, presented by Dr. Edward Howard Griggs, distinguished lecturer, critic, and author. Next week, Dr. Griggs will speak on Pierre Loti, the sensitive dreamer as child and man. Copies of tonight's discussion of Rudyard Kipling may be obtained by addressing the National Broadcasting Company, Radio City, New York, or the station to which you are listening.
This is the NBC Theater. From the NBC Theater in Hollywood, an hour-length dramatization of Rudyard Kipling's The Light That Failed. This work is noteworthy not only as typical Kipling, but because in different editions it has different endings. In one edition it ends happily, in another on a tragic note. We have chosen the ending of the 1892 edition, the heroic ending, that is. For an interpretation of that, we refer you to the last scene of this broadcast. Today's adaptation is by George Lefferts of NBC. And at intermission, a transcribed commentary on the writings of Rudyard Kipling by Mr. Henry Outland, noted critic and commentary. Here then, The Light That Failed by Rudyard Kipling.
Then we brought the lances down, then the bugles blew. When we went to Kandahar, riding two and two, riding, 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 riding two and two.
All right. Next stretcher. Bring him in. Lively, lively. Set him down.
And you take him right away, sir. His head's badly cut.
Officer?
No, he's a correspondent. Draw sketches for my syndicate.
What's his name?
Helder. Dick Helder.
Oh, yes. I've seen some of his work. Very good. All right. Let's have a look at him.
Oh.
Easy. How did he get that gash?
Arab sword, sir.
What was the correspondent doing in the front rank?
We handle our share when trouble comes, sir.
I see. All right, boys. Get him on the operating table. He'll take a bit of work.
Maisie.
Easy, Dickie boy.
Maisie.
Who's Maisie?
Some girl he knew back in England, I suppose. We've known enough of them. I never heard him mention Maisie, though.
Maisie.
All right. Anesthetic. Count with me. Slowly. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
Oh, Dick, we really oughtn't to be playing with a pistol and cartridges.
Nobody need know.
If Mrs. Jennett ever found out...
A pox on Mrs. Jennett.
What a dreadful thing to say about one's own guardian.
She's your guardian, too. And I've heard you call her worse. I'm going to take another shot at the ocean. Stand back.
Dick, now don't.
Stand back. Next holidays, we'll get a better pistol. Central fire. It'll carry further.
There won't be any next holidays for me.
Why not?
Because my lawyers have written to Mrs. Jennett that I must be sent off to be educated.
But then I shall be left alone.
I'll see you again when I've been educated.
And you shall be alone, too.
Don't say that, Dick. I'm quite miserable enough.
Because you're going away from Mrs. Jennett?
No.
From me, then?
Well, I don't know. I suppose...
But you must know. I'm not supposing. We've been together so many years now. I've always cared for you terribly.
I don't believe you ever did. You were always teasing me.
But I care awfully, Maisie. Awfully. I've always wanted to kiss you.
Oh, no, Dick. Please don't.
It was all right this morning when I kissed you.
But that was good morning.
Is it different now?
Yes.
Mayn't I kiss you once? For goodbye.
No, it wouldn't be. Oh, Dick, I don't want to go away from you and our Mama. I don't.
12, 13, 14.
Maisie.
He's coming out of it now. I'll leave you with him.
Thank you, sir.
Maisie. My head.
You're all right now, Dickie.
Top?
Yes, Dick.
Top, look out for that Arab. Oh. Where is this?
You're in the hospital in Cairo. You've had a bad cut on the head. You'll be all right.
Cairo? How long?
4 days.
4 days. The battle?
We won easily.
My sketches?
All safe. I have them here.
Oh, thank heaven.
I have some good news for you.
Impossible.
We've had a wire from the syndicate.
I'm fired.
No. They asked me to return to England.
Good news for me?
I'm to bring you with me.
What?
Easy. You're a sick man.
Go on.
Your sketches have caught on. People are saying you have a fresh touch and a new way of drawing things. The syndicate wants you to go back to do book illustrations.
In England?
Be good to get back after 4 years of broiling on the Egyptian desert, won't it?
Yes, it will.
I'm glad we're going together, Dickie. I should miss you if we weren't.
We can room together.
By the way, who is Maisie?
Maisie?
You kept repeating her name.
Oh, no one. Just a little girl I used to know.
Well, this apartment is a big box, really, but I suppose it'll be comfortable enough here. There's your skylight, or your north light, or whatever you call it. Window overlooking the Thames, enough room to thrash around in, and 2 bedrooms beyond.
Good enough.
I gave the address to the syndicate man. He should be... Well, he's a prompt one. Rowley, Central Syndicate. You're Mr. Helder? No, I'm Mr. Torpenhow. That's Mr. Helder. Ah, delighted. Excuse my puffing. 7 flights, you know. Great admirer, Mr. Helder. I trust you won't forget we were instrumental in bringing you before the public.
Sorry, I can't offer you a chair. We aren't furnished yet. As for my forgetting how instrumental you were, the syndicate paid me so handsomely, I really couldn't forget them.
Oh, of course.
I should like my sketches returned, incidentally. 150. I've had a better offer from another firm.
What? Well, in the absence of any specified agreement, the sketches remain our property, of course.
The devil they do.
We are thinking of selling them.
Now, look here. You engaged me by wire. You paid me the lowest rate you dared. You can't mean to keep them. Good heavens, man, they're all I've got in the world.
Speaking for the syndicate.
You will be good enough to give me my sketches.
Mr. Helder.
It's a cold-blooded steal. You will return them.
Be careful, Dick. This isn't a sedan. Considering the great service the syndicate has done you in putting your name before the world.
Mr. Rowley, I don't know whether to kill you or just name you. Look at the fat on him, will you, Torp? I don't know how he dares to be a thief. I've seen an Esner camel driver have the hide torn off him in strips for stealing half a pound of wet dates.
Take your hands off me.
Now, sir, unless you want the life squeezed out of you, you will write a note to your office this moment. Here's a pencil. Wait a minute till your hand stops trembling. Now, order them to give Mr. Torpenhow every one of my sketches. Right.
I don't know how you got away with it, Dick. I must say...
He was interfering with me. Now, let's see these sketches. Oh, they're good, Torp. Better than I remember them. I shall have an exhibition. I shall sell every one of them and become independently wealthy. How would you begin, Torp?
If I were you, Dick, I would begin by going out and praying to be delivered for the most fabulous arrogance I've ever seen in a man. But, knowing you from 4 years of battle, I imagine you'll come up on your feet and be exactly as you say, a great success. Well, Dick, how does it feel to have sold your first paintings?
Good. I want more, heaps more. Enough to make up for all the lean, miserable years when I was a struggling, unwanted orphan.
Careful, old man. That way lies bad work.
You know what, Torp? I don't care. I want the power, I want the fun, and above all, I want the money.
The papers called your exhibit a Wild West show.
Blast the papers. I sold every last shred of canvas. You know what? They think I'm a self-taught flagstone artist.
Aren't you?
I studied for 2 years under Camus in Paris. He taught me every trick in the books.
Well, you are a fraud.
A success.
Same thing.
Look, Torp. You're a product of the rich. I'm an orphan. Everything I know, I've had to learn the hard way. I scrubbed floors for Camus so he'd give me lessons.
Camus doesn't work that way. He must have thought you had real talent.
Yeah. Go to the devil.
Why don't you paint something good, Dick? You can do it.
Good. What do the masses know about good? Give them what they know, and when you've done, give them the same thing over again with a new color in it. Here. Take a look at this. I call it a sketch I made outside El Maghrib. Rifleman in action.
You were never near El Maghrib.
Nobody but you and me knows that. I lured some drunk soldier up here last night and used him for a model.
Dick, no man born of woman is strong enough to take liberties with his public.
Well, I don't know any better. What can you expect from creatures born and bred in this foggy British light? Give them a crimson desert and it blinds them. They want furniture polish, and I'll give them furniture polish.
You may fool them for a while, but not for long. The people know, Dick. In the end, they always know.
I can't even get angry with you.
It would be better if you could. You turn your anger inward, and it corrodes your soul. Well, where are you going now?
Out to walk a bit. It's getting a little close in here, and I don't mean the atmosphere. Good night.
Oh.
You might watch it.
Aye, you were charging along like a... Dick, is that you?
Maisie?
It is you.
Maisie!
Oh, Dick, Dick.
Let me look at you after all these years. Prettier than ever.
You look well, prosperous and sleek.
In all of London, meeting you like this.
I'm grateful to the fates. Where do you live?
Over there, south. Where do you?
North, across the park.
What do you do?
I paint.
No.
Yes, what do you do?
Haven't you heard?
No.
I paint too, doing quite well.
Really? I've been in Paris till recently, studying.
Do you live alone?
No, I've a girl with me. Oh, don't walk so fast, Dick. You're out of step.
Yes, I seem to be. Do you sell much?
Oh, heavens, no. Oh, this is my bus, Dick, and there isn't another for an hour, and I'm on my way to a lesson.
Oh, don't go.
Well, I must.
Meet me in the park tomorrow, then. Marble Arch.
Well...
Meet me. Say you will.
All right, Dick.
12 noon, Marble Arch.
Dick.
Oh, you've come.
But did you think I wouldn't?
I didn't know.
What's got into you?
Oh, I'm a cynic, I suppose. Let's see you in daylight. Oh, yes. Nothing's changed, has it?
We're grown up.
Not really. I felt just like the time I fastened your hair into the snap of a handbag.
You were horrid.
You used to smile more then. Something worrying you?
Worrying myself, I guess. I just don't seem to get on with my work.
Have you done much?
Oh, yes, I hope to exhibit this year.
Where?
The salon.
You fly high.
I've been beating my wings a long while. Where do you exhibit, Dick?
I don't exhibit.
Well, what do you do?
I sell.
What's your line?
You mean you really haven't heard? Come along.
Where?
Just come along. I want to show you something. Come on now. See the crowd before the window of that print shop?
Well, what are they looking at?
Come along.
He's chucked off the lead horse in that painting. That gun'll go off to one side, sure.
Oh, I don't know. His foot's braced proper.
Oh, he sure can paint, can't he? I never seen a horse what looked more like, well, horsey.
Are those your pictures they're talking about, Dick?
All mine. Look at their faces, will you? It hits them. They don't know what makes their mouths fly open, but I know. I put it there. It's right.
Yes, I see.
Don't you like them?
Oh, yes, Dick. It's fine to have such success. How do you come by it?
I wanted it, so I took it.
I wanted it terribly and had none at all.
Perhaps I've enough for both of us.
I don't follow you, Dick.
Maisie, what I'm going to say may sound a bit absurd. Those 10 years we were apart, they never existed. Everything's the same.
Oh, no, you've had your success. I haven't tasted mine.
I've enough for both of us. Maisie, can't you see you're alone and I'm alone? What's the use of all this striving? Come to me. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I understand, Dick. But I've my work to do.
Do it with me, then. I won't interrupt.
No, it wouldn't work. I'm going to do this all alone.
Don't you remember that time at the shore?
I remember as well as you, Dick. And I cherish those years. But we were babies then.
Oh, Maisie.
Don't be selfish, Dick.
Selfish?
I think I see my way to a little success next year. Don't take it from me.
Same old Maisie. We've both wills of our own, huh? Will you see me tomorrow?
If you like.
I like. I'll come by at 3. We'll go to the ocean. There it is. The ocean. Remember when we used to run along the beach and play?
Oh, Dick, it hasn't changed. The air's so clean and fresh. I feel 10 years old.
Maisie.
Don't, Dick.
Darling, please.
Oh, Dick, do be sensible. It isn't my fault. If I felt I could love anyone, it would be you. But I don't. I can't.
I suppose I'm a nuisance. You must forgive a man in love. He's always a nuisance.
Oh, Dick.
Maisie,
If you could come with me away from this fog-ridden England, I could show you things such as you've never seen. Tropic islands like diamonds, alive with hot, moist orchids making mouths at you, and a waterfall 300 feet high like a sliver of jade, and bees and coconuts and parrots criticizing you.
Oh, I shouldn't like that. Take me somewhere else.
There's a big, red, dead city built of sandstone in the desert, and there are 40 dead kings there, each in a tomb finer than the next. There are palaces with carved doors where nobody lives, except a peacock and a black monkey.
Is that true?
I've been there, I've seen it. Maisie, darling, come with me. Let me show you the world as it is, lovely and horrible, and all it cares about is painting and making love.
Oh, if you could only paint like that. If you could work those things into a canvas.
Is that what it means to you? I want to live it, not paint it.
Suppose I were to come to you.
If you were...
No, be quiet. Just as I am and caring just as much and no more. Suppose I said, take me to those places, and in time I might really care for you. What would you do?
Send you right back in a cab. No, I'd let you walk.
You see, you don't really want me.
What'll you do?
Go back to work for a while, at least.
I'll give you a hint, then. Stick to money. There's nothing in the world more ghastly than poverty.
You've plenty of pennies now.
I shall never have enough, and I shall always be threatened short of my accounts.
Why threatened?
I carried a man's bag once from Liverpool Station to Blackfriar Bridge. It was a sixpenny job. Oh, you needn't laugh. I wanted the money desperately. He gave me threepence. No more. So you see, whatever I make, I'll never get that threepence out of the world.
There's your threepence, Dickie.
Oh.
Are you paid now?
I am. And now, I suppose there's nothing left to do but close the account. Goodbye, darling.
Goodbye, Dick. Goodbye.
I've slipped my cable, messmates, and I'm drifting down the tide. See it, Pinky boy, see it. Marvelous, you're a regular little doggy, though your background be a trifle mixed. Another chorus now.
What the devil is that racket?
Ah, Top, my friend. Come in.
Where did you get this bedraggled little dog?
Mr. Top, now meet Mr. Binky. We are partners in grief.
Oh, so she's left you.
Sail for France.
I told you you'd come to this.
You were right, Top, my boy, but a prophet has no honor in his own country. You were right. I was wrong, and Binky take the hindmost. Tell me, is he not a most magnificent animal?
He needs a bath.
I shall bathe him in tears.
What's happened? Tell me.
She's gone to France, and I'm free. I almost made a fool of myself. Almost. Oh, but Top, Maisie's gone. She's gone.
How do you feel, Dick?
All right.
You've been on quite a toot.
Have I?
3 days.
Oh. Where's Binky?
Sleeping.
Poor little pup. I need a bath.
What's
the matter?
There's someone sleeping in the living room.
Who?
A girl.
Good heavens, was I outdoors?
No.
I don't remember any girl.
She isn't your girl.
Whose is she?
Nobody's.
Well?
She collapsed on the street front steps as I was coming in this morning. Want of food. I gave her a meal and put her to sleep.
What's she like?
Pretty cheap.
Let's see. Oh, my head. Well, Tuppenny sailor hat, blue dress in January. Look at her shoes. This one's been down in her luck.
I suppose I should have turned her over to a policeman.
Look at that face. Not an ounce of immorality in it. Only folly. Slack, fatuous, feeble, futile folly. Typical. Notice how the skull begins to show through the flesh padding of the cheekbone.
What a cold-blooded barbarian you are. She was simply dropping with starvation. She fell into my arms, and when we got home, she ate like a wild beast.
Is she going to sleep forever? Hey.
Hey, miss!
Oh.
Feeling better?
Oh, yes, thank you. There aren't many gentlemen as kind as you.
When did you leave service?
How do you know?
Your hands?
I was a general servant till I resigned.
Like being your own mistress better?
Do I look like I like it?
I suppose not. Turn your face to the window. Go ahead.
Like this?
Fine. Look at those eyes, Torp. Superb. This head has been sent to me from heaven to make up for Maisie. Now that the strain is over, I can get to work. Raise your chin a little. Raise it!
Don't let him hit me, sir, please.
Dick, you're scaring her.
I've been hit cruel today because I spoke to a man. And don't let him look at me like that. It's wicked. I feel like I had nothing on.
Nobody's going to hurt you. Listen to me for a moment. I'm what they call a professional artist.
They're what draws pictures on pop shop labels.
I haven't risen to pop shop labels yet, but I do want to draw your head on canvas.
Whatever for?
Because I want to. You will come to the room across the landing 3 mornings a week at 11, and I'll give you 3 quid to sit for me.
3 quid for just sitting? Oh, my.
Remember the place. By the way, what's your name?
Bessie.
Bessie what?
What's the difference?
What's the rest?
Broke. Bessie broke. Stone broke, if you like. Yeah. You're making fun of me about that 3 quid, ain't you?
Be here at 11 tomorrow. Don't wear that paint. I've all the colour you'll need. Now, if you're feeling strong enough, here's your coat.
I'll be here tomorrow.
Good. Off with you. Well, what?
I didn't think you charitable, Dick.
I'm not. I need the lady for my masterpiece.
Your what?
My melancholia.
What's that?
I just told you. I'm going to paint something. A woman's head. I'm going to put into it all the eternal sadness and grief any man has ever felt. Don't you see it in her eyes? Terror and grief and futility and sorrow and rage, all there. Oh, Torp, I'm going to do a painting the likes of which you've never seen. 2 keys of orange and black. But I can't stand here and talk to an empty stomach. Come on, let's eat. Dinky! Dinky! That's my little pup. Come along. We're going to work.
From Hollywood, the NBC Theater is bringing you a dramatization of The Light That Failed by Rudyard Kipling. If you are interested in supplementing your enjoyment of these NBC Theater productions with home study under college supervision, be sure to listen to the announcement at the close of this program. And now, our intermission commentator, Mr. Henry Outland.
60 years after his first meteoric fame, critics are still divided on Rudyard Kipling. Some lofty brows hesitate to admire him. They fear he is too dated or was once too imperialistic. Even his thick and thin advocates shy away from giving him his final place in letters. But they need not worry. Kipling didn't. He figured time and only time could settle that. In November 1921, when he was 56, I asked him some questions. That afternoon, in a ceremony which only Paris could stage at the Sorbonne, he was named Honorary Doctor of Letters and hailed as the world's best-known writer. Kipling the man, what was he like then? That evening, at a large private reception in Neuilly, on shaking his hand, I said, Mr. Kipling, years ago I read, not in your English, but in a French translation, your paper on smells. Seizing impulsively my coat lapel, he replied in his sharp, intense speech, My dear fellow, that's the best thing I ever wrote. Where can I read it in your own words? Only in the bulletin of the Royal Geographical Society, where I gave it as a talk. Later, I mentioned a famous Frenchman often accused of plagiarism. You know, Kipling retorted, smiling, we are all a pack of thieves. Behind thick glasses and under brows that would make John L. Lewis's seem scanty, his eyes were kind, searching, witty, mocking, and incredibly shrewd. As he spoke, his tense body swayed. When people smothered him with compliments, he froze. Otherwise, all evening, he was like a schoolboy on vacation. For his first novel, The Light That Failed, Kipling got $800 when it appeared in 1891 in Lippincott's magazine, and he had to give it a happy ending. Many have wept over its moving passages, but neither the critics nor the larger public acclaimed it as they later did that story of Kim, or the Jungle Books, and much else. Kipling, the versifier, who had moments of poetic splendor, the revealer of India, the spokesman of empire, the advocate of doing a good job, the prophet of trials to come, the supremely gifted storyteller. Will he endure? Who now has the vision to say confidently that the best of this amazing craftsman will not survive? Meantime, in a vastly changed world, this extraordinary observer, this magician of words, this great technician holds an immense public.
Thank you, Mr. Outland. Our radio version of The Light That Failed will continue from Hollywood after a brief pause for station identification.
In.
Hold still.
You ought to let me take some things home to mend.
Turn your head a trifle more to the light. Good.
Mr. Torpenhow wears his socks out at both ends.
How do you know?
Oh, he's been having me in for tea once or twice.
Oh. Really?
Don't look at me like that. You look regular bad when you look at me that way. You don't think much of me, do you?
I don't think of you, period.
Mr. Torpenhow likes me. Says I've a pretty way.
Hold still, Blasto. So, you've been seeing Top in his rooms.
He says I might come to be his housekeeper.
Oh, good Lord.
Not for always. Oh, I know I'm Miss Wrong, but till Miss Right comes along, I'd work my fingers to the bone for him.
You'll be ordered off to Africa if there's a war.
Till he goes, then.
I don't believe you. I think you're making it all up.
Why don't you ask him?
I will, by heaven. Now, that's all for today. Come back tomorrow.
I don't see your right to interfere, Dick.
Who's interfering? Your own senses tell you you're being a fool about Bessie. Come on, Top. Don't play St. Anthony on the rack.
All right. I oughtn't to have seen her moving about these rooms as if they belonged to her. That's what upset me. Gives a lonely man a sense of yearning, and heaven knows you've been worse than no company at all since you moved in.
Do you want her?
I do and I don't. I'm confused. I know I shouldn't see her, but I do see her. What can I do?
You're going on a tour, a brilliant season abroad to regain your tone. Tomorrow. Come on, pack.
But what's the matter?
Nothing, just a little dizziness. Been working too close, I suppose. My eyes go out of focus.
Maybe you ought to come along with me.
And leave the melancholia? Oh, no. This is the one, Top. The one truly good thing I've ever done. Go along and pack. I'll be along to help you when my eyes are cleared.
All right. I say, you ought to see a doctor if your eyes are that bad.
Follow this light.